Director, do that.
Thank you. We are very proud of the progress that our CDSB has made with the implementation of French as a second language, and specifically French immersion across all of our schools. And so today we're going to talk about some of the strengths and the successes that we've had, and then we're also going to share some of the next steps that we're going to take to continue to enhance programming for all students. So we just wanted to start off with a few bigger picture pieces that help frame the conversation. The first being the fact that our CDSB's vision and the Ministry of Education's vision align when it comes to French as a second language. And our vision is that students in English language schools have the ability and the confidence to use French effectively in their daily lives. That's our overall goal. And the ministry sets out 3 goals that we address through the FSL plan that every school board is required to have. And those 3 goals are to increase student confidence, proficiency, and achievement in FSL, to increase the percentage of students studying FSL until graduation, and then finally to increase student, educator, parent, and community engagement in FSL. So your executive council has spent the past 6 weeks really digging into French as a second language across Renfrew County District School Board. We have received feedback from our schools about what's working well and what are some small improvements that we can make to enhance programming for all students. So when, as a team, when we started working on this together, we realized that although this sort of was co-constructed over time, there are some guiding principles that are guiding our decision making. And we thought we would share these with you so that you really understood where we're coming from. And so first and foremost, we need to put our students at the center of our decision making. Secondly, we also need to, and this is right in our strategic plan, we need to implement or have the responsible stewardship of our resources. The ministry came out very strongly and said FSL is for all students. And we do believe that in our CDSB as well. And so when we're thinking about our programming, we want to think about French as a second language for all students. Yes, we have different types of programs, but we want to think about the whole picture altogether. We also believe that it's very important for us to have consistent and equitable models for French as a second language programs across our CDSB. It's also important that we think about the quality of the programming in the English subjects. And I will speak to that in more detail in a few minutes. But specifically, English language, we just had a new curriculum come out for grade 1 to 9, math, new curriculum in the last couple of years, and then science with a new curriculum as well. So we know those core subjects are very important. The research shows that is those subjects are key to students' long-term success in terms of achievement. And finally, we know that one of our guiding principles is that we want to see enhanced secondary FSL pathways to increase the number of students earning an FSL certificate and being successful on the DELF. And that aligns with the second ministry goal that we just reviewed with you. So as I mentioned, we want to talk about our successes to start, and then talk about how we're going to keep building off of the great programming that we have established in our CDSB. So we are going to start with 2 students from Valor Community School, and we're going to start with a student who's in grade 3. So hopefully we can click on this video. And I hope she introduces herself in the video. So I forgot to put her name down in front of me.
Might not have.
Click on it. Oh, he's got it. Okay. Okay.
That's, yeah.
Perfect.
Comment t'appelles-tu?
Ben,
Oui. Quel âge as-tu?
je suis 8 ans.
Quel est le nom de ton école?
Van Elementary.
Quelle est ta matière préférée? Subject.
Je pense éducation physique.
Pardon?
Éducation physique.
Les éducations physiques. Quelle est ta nourriture préférée?
Probablement chocolat ou la pizza.
OK. Quel est ton animal préféré?
Un chien ou un chiot.
Bravo. Et quels sont tes passe-temps préférés?
Probablement quand moi et ma équipe de hockey gagnent un tournement.
Bravo. OK. Merci, Benny.
Cute.
And the next one.
Yes, thank you.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Chloé Reed, j'ai 18 ans, je suis née à Parola, Ontario et je suis dans la deuxième année à Valor en le cours d'immersion en français.
Et quels sont tes plans pour l'année prochaine?
Probablement faire l'infirmier à l'université à Ottawa.
Très bien. Et tu as réussi sur ton DELF cette année, n'est-ce pas?
Oui,
Tu es très fière.
oui.
Est-ce que c'était une belle expérience?
Oui, je pense que c'était une bonne expérience pour moi parce qu'un côté de ma famille est français, donc c'est vraiment une bonne chose.
Très bien. Et quand tu ne pratiques pas ton français, que fais-tu pour t'amuser?
J'aime aller à la gymnase et faire des différentes choses avec mes amis.
Très bien. Merci beaucoup, Chloé.
Merci.
So we wanted to show you the continuum. And ideally, we would even go a little younger to start off, but we thought grade 3 to grade 12 is a pretty good period of time to showcase. And we can see some of the strengths that we have in our students and their enthusiasm as well for the language. And I liked when Chloe, she lit up when she talked about her success on the DELF. I think that really was a highlight for her because really is speaking, I will share as a parent, my daughter did go through French immersion and completed the DELF, and for her that is a success for her. Like that certificate is very important to her, and I could see that same enthusiasm in Chloe as well as she was speaking about that success. So we thought we'd share some data with you as well. So we have the qualitative through the videos and then some quantitative data. Look at that huge increase on the green line. So although in the legend it says school, and that's just this is coming out of a ministry platform that shares this data, so we don't have control over the colors, but it's a screenshot. That's actually our board data. And so we can see that from 2018-19 from that school year to 19-20, 2021, 21-22, we have had a huge increase in the number of students or the percentage of students who are participating in French immersion. So this is specific to French immersion. Okay, so that's one huge success for our CDSB. And the second chart is another interesting one because this speaks to that second goal about more students engaging in FSL all the way until their grade 12 graduation. And that grade 12 French as a second language credit is required in order for a student to participate in the DELF, which is Diplôme d'études en langue française. And that is that internationally recognized certificate. I'm just making sure everyone is all on the same page about this. So that grade 12 FSL credit is required for participation in the DELF. So it's very important. It's also the grade 12 credit is required for the extended French or French immersion certificate, the secondary certificate that we can issue to students if they meet the requirements. So another goal for us is to have as many students as possible and to increase the number of students and percentage of students who are completing their grade 12 FSL credit. So again, we can see the green is our board, and we can see we have essentially closed the gap between us and the province as of with the 2021-2022 data. And we are closing the gap between us and the red, which is the region. And keeping in mind that it looks like a large gap, but just make sure that we look at the scale on the left-hand side, right? Sometimes that can look, we're not looking at 0 to 100. We're actually looking at only all the way up to 20%. So, for our data as of 21-22, we're sitting around, between 12, so around 13%. And the region is sitting just below 18%. So we still have some room to grow. And we think with the work that we are doing, we are going to see the benefits of that over time, because we've implemented some of these pathways just recently, which means we haven't realized the results at the grade 12 level yet. So we're anticipating seeing an increase with this data, an improvement with this data over time as well. Okay. I'm going to pause here and see if there are any questions. Oh, no, sorry, I want to keep going. Finish all the successes first, and then I'll pause for questions about what I've shared so far, and then we'll get into some improvements. So this is our November 2023 DELF participation and success data. And so we can see that we have the different levels. So again, we have A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2 as the different levels of proficiency. And we had a total of 60 students participate in the November session, which is an excellent number. And we'll get to the totals over year in the next slide in a minute. But 60 for the beginning of the school year is excellent. And we had 55 out of the 60 be successful with their DELF assessment. Okay, we're going to keep going. So the next slide is showing us that year-over-year participation and success data. This is the participation data. So it's showing the number of students that participated by year. And so we know the most recent is on the left. So if we start on the right and go work our way to the left, we start in 2015. We had 41 students participate. We can see the breakdown by proficiency level. 2016, we could see a nice increase all the way to 2019, all the way up to 101 students participating in the DELF, which is excellent. And then we had a bit of a gap, right? So now we're rebuilding. And so last year we had 80 students participate in the DELF, but we already have 60 as of November. So it's looking very good that we should be able to exceed our totals from last year in terms of DELF participation. So I will pause here to see if you have any questions about what I've shared so far around our successes with FSL. Keep going, and we'll have time at the end as well. So I wanted to share the next slide with you around, Connor, can we go back, I think, by one slide, unless, yeah, there we go. Just to talk about, the research around successful organizations. Successful organizations, they take in feedback, they do an assessment, they make a plan with people, right? They implement it, and then they receive what I would call continuous feedback about how to make it even better. And to me, that speaks to the quote on the left: excellence is not a destination, it is a continuous journey that never ends. And then it speaks to a Japanese term on the right, kaizen. And again, it's change is good. And also that it's that notion of continuous improvement. And when we really dug in over the last 6 weeks as a team, we talked about how there are two significant changes that have happened in education since Renfrew County District School Board embarked on the review of elementary programs and the expansion of FSL programming. And those two significant changes are the Ontario Human Rights Commission's report on the right to read, and what came out of that in terms of the need for more explicit instruction in literacy. And that impacted the revisions to the curriculum from grade 1 to 9 that just took place. We saw the ministry announcement that's coming out around revisions to the kindergarten curriculum, and specifically, they said the main change is going to be more emphasis on explicit instruction in literacy and numeracy. So that was one of the significant changes that's recently happened in education that wasn't there. It wasn't in the picture when we first started down our journey of implementing or expanding FSL in our CDSB. The second change and information that we have received is all the research around the impacts of de-streaming or streaming, depending on which way you look at it. So that's something else that's come into our view since we've started on this journey. And so it brings me to Maya Angelou's quote, or part of the quote: when you know better, you do better. And that's what this is about. It's about us. We, as a board, we've been very successful. And our enrollment data has shown that over many years, the last few years, that expanding FSL across all of our schools has resonated with families. And we are seeing an increase in enrollment, which is fantastic. And now what we want to do is talk about how do we make it better for all students. So that sort of leads us into the next part of the discussion. So this first slide, the link provides you, and we aren't going to go through it line by line, but the link provides a summary of what's currently in place in every school in terms of FSL programming and what we have planned for 2024 and beyond, the 2024-25 school year and beyond, and also then showing how that extends into secondary. So the far right-hand column shows what the corresponding high school would be offering in support of the students coming out of each feeder school. So as we scroll down, I'm going to show two colors of rows. The yellow rows are one row that I'm going to speak to further. Okay, I won't get into it right now, but the yellow rows I'm going to connect to, and then the green rows. So there are two groups of schools that I'm going to speak to during our discussion today. Okay, in other words, the other ones that are not highlighted, they're going to end up remaining status quo in terms of the type of programming that they're offering at this point. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. So in the chart, we have one group of schools that we've been offering what we've been calling Middle French Immersion. And if we were to look at the students' daily schedule, they have over 50-50, in terms of they have more than 50% of their days in French, which means that from a daily schedule perspective, it meets the criteria for French immersion. But there's a second criteria. In order for a program to be called a French immersion program, the students by the end of grade 8 must have 3,800 hours of French language instruction. The schools that have been grouped into this group of middle French immersion, although they have 50% or more of their days in French, they're not meeting the total instructional hours requirement to be classified as a French immersion program. So Executive Council wants to make some improvements to, one, be more transparent with students and families, and also to build off of the great programming that we have in place. So you received already a heads up about Highview and Mackenzie because we needed to proceed before today's meeting because it impacts our enrollment, which impacts staffing, and we have many timelines that we need to follow. And so with Highview and Mackenzie Community School, currently they both have what we're calling Middle French Immersion from grade 4 to 8. And what we are going to be doing is transitioning these two schools to a bilingual kindergarten program and early French immersion for grade 1 to 8. And we have scheduled FSL family information nights at both of those schools. We can see the dates there. Okay, so that's one change that we are implementing. This is an enhancement. It's a good news story because we are expanding French immersion beyond grade 4 to 8. Students will start in kindergarten. All students will experience a bilingual program in kindergarten, and then families can choose if they would like the core French program or the French immersion program starting in grade 1. The other two schools that are part of this group are Rockwood Public and Sherwood Public. So again, currently they have what we have been calling Middle French Immersion from grade 4 to 8. For these two schools, we are going to transition them to an extended French program for grade 4 to 8. There are two reasons. For Rockwood, we are going to have two schools in Pembroke that will be offering the early French immersion program, and therefore families can access that programming at the other two schools. But the feedback around the starting FSL programming in grade 4 has been positive, so we want to maintain it. So we're going to continue to have extended French in Rockwood from grade 4 to 8. At Sherwood, we are going to, as I said, transition to extended French for grade 4 to 8. But here's the other part. This is the one family of schools right now where we do not have early French immersion being offered. And so we are going to engage in a consultation with families to seek their feedback about the type of FSL programming that they want for their children in the Madawaska Valley family of schools. And then once we have current data from all of the families in that family of schools, then we will review it and develop a plan to meet as many of the family needs as possible. Okay, I'm going to pause here and see if there are any questions about these two slides because they are very specific to, so we're going to back up to the school specific changes. So Highview and Mackenzie are in one group, and then Sherwood and Rockwood are in the other group.
I have a few questions. The first is the basic one. What's the difference between bilingual kindergarten and early French immersion?
Great question. So when we say bilingual kindergarten, what we mean is that all the students in that school will all be in a bilingual program. And it's traditionally been 50-50. So 50% English taught in English, 50% taught in French, but all the students in the school are accessing this, they're participating in the same program. We differentiate that because when we say the early French immersion program, starting in grade 1, the students are their families either choose the core French program or the French immersion. So that's different than bilingual kindergarten because they're all together, they all have the 50-50. But starting in grade 1, that's where they choose one program or the other. So that's why we separate out the bilingual kindergarten from the grade 1 to 8 early French immersion.
And do the other schools that have French immersion already have bilingual kindergarten?
Yes.
And because they do, how was the parent response, particularly for English speaking families?
I'm going to look to Superintendent Riddell or Superintendent Cousineau to speak to that because I haven't had as much contact with the families. But just looking, yeah, I agree. There might be some concerns.
So part of the work of de-streaming is again engaging all learners and certainly looking from a positive point of view, and then the blended model, as was mentioned in the presentation. I personally, because I do have a lot of the immersion sites in my family as schools, I have not dealt with a lot of conversations in that regard from parents. Certainly, though, we want to have robust English programming, and at one of the schools, there is not even a grade 1 class that's currently English. It's all French immersion. So there is, concern for that cohort moving forward if kids decide to change or what have you, who would these students be with, and having that kind of mixed grade level throughout. But what this will do will allow more opportunities within the school day to have blended classes for all students. So students with their peers able to engage and such. And I think honestly, it'll raise the high expectations for all students to be successful and to have that peer relationship, and it will really, for lack of a better word, streamline the experience. So it is really a positive, and it's modeled with a lot, just not from a learning point of view, but also just operational point of view, but more the student experience each day as well. And just what a 50-50 model would also support, literacy, numeracy, and such for students in English. Certainly when kids get to high school, they take more courses in English. So it's good to have that balance as well, while still maintaining their ability to be proficient in French and have those French cultural experiences.
So I'll just jump in, then I'll go to you, Superintendent Cousineau. I think that we're going to get into the 50-50 model in a minute, but I think your question is really around parents don't have a choice for kindergarten right now in some of our schools, right? Because if it is bilingual, they are all expected to take 50% of their day in French, 50% of their day in English. So you're wondering about what parents' responses to that.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I thought you meant the old.
No, it's about the bilingual kindergarten. So
So I can speak to the most recent example where we made changes in Petawawa. And that was raised initially as a concern from parents who were at Pineview and had an English kindergarten program. But we do offer some FSL in kindergarten. And then we increased the time from half an hour to a 50% program. And while it was raised by some parents as a concern initially, once the program started, we didn't have any complaints, and parents were then in a position to make an informed decision going into grade 1, choosing early French immersion, because many were wondering in the first year, well, my child's only had an English kindergarten. Should I opt for early French immersion or not, that level of questioning has been essentially addressed by the fact that their child has had a full year of 2 years of bilingual kindergarten, and then they can make an informed decision. Because many would probably withhold their child from the program thinking my child cannot handle this. And it debunks some of those notions. Again, aligning with FSL is for all students, and you give them an early exposure, it sets them on the right path, and then parents do have that luxury of 2 years of bilingual programming. So that's based on most recent example, and I certainly haven't received any complaints beyond the initial concerns raised. Once we were into the program, it was all fine.
It's and I should be clear, I'm very much for the French immersion. It was one of the reasons I became a trustee. It's because I didn't want to send Penelope to Equinox. So it was important to me. But especially in Deep River, we hear everything because that's what people do in Deep River. And there are a number of people who I guess I would challenge or ask a question about how many parents are self-selecting out. So there are several groups saying, my kid's already having trouble, so I'm going to go to St. Mary's instead of Mackenzie if I'm forced to have French. And so I think I imagine that will be one of the pushbacks is nobody likes to be forced to do anything. And I think especially English speaking families who have their own experiences with French, I can see that being a problem. And I wonder if it might be something to track. I don't know how you would track about parents who were going to come to Mackenzie, but then opted out because there's the bilingual requirement.
Couple of points that I will make is that we are going to be attending the FSL Family Information Night on this Thursday at Mackenzie. So we are looking forward to hearing that feedback. And the second part was that, we believe that giving students that early experience when they're young, we know that the younger the child, the more their brain is just open to learning new languages. So we just think that let's build their confidence at a very young age and let them try it. And then, and as Superintendent Cousineau said, then families are making an informed decision after having experienced it for 2 years. Then they can choose either the core French program or the French immersion program. So we're going to continue. Oh,
Just
yep,
add to
yes,
that.
absolutely.
For these FSL nights, right? Can you not bring a few parents that, we're not to talk about, oh, I don't think this is good for my children. And now like 2 years into it, it's like, hey, wow, this is pretty good, just to allow, because they're going to ask, right? It's like, hey, I don't know French. We don't have any French. But if you have people that have that same experience that have gone through it and said, my child, we have no French background. My child has done really well. We had questions about it, but, now they're going to go into, the French immersion programs. Just a thought.
That's very good. That's a good idea. Thank you. Okay. So that was one change, that group of 4 schools that had what we've been calling middle French immersion and getting them on a pathway, with either the early French immersion or extended French. And either of those pathways, or I should say both of those pathways, extend into secondary school. If students are in the French immersion program, if they earn their 10 credits in secondary, including their 4 French language subjects credits, then they will get their French immersion certificate. And extended French is 7 credits in high school, and you can graduate from grade 12 with an extended French certificate. So both pathways have a secondary certificate attached. The other change that we are going to be moving forward with is implementing a consistent model for the 3 types of programming we have. So we have core French, extended French, and French immersion. Today, we're going to talk about extended French and French immersion. So because the programming, when we expanded the programming, we built it off of existing programs in our communities. And so when that happened, we tried to make the changes so that they weren't, it would have been tough to go right to a consistent model across the entire board because we had different models across the board that we were building off of. And so it was a good intermediary step to implement some slightly different models. But now we're at a point where we believe that what's best is to have a consistent model across the board for French immersion and a consistent model for extended French. And what that means is we would be looking at 50% of the day being in English and 50% of the day being in French. The important part to remember is that most of the schools, aside from the 4 that we just reviewed, the other schools were on a 60-40 model. The difference between a 60-40 model and a 50-50 model is 30 minutes per day. And the 30 minutes, what was happening is it was being taken away from English language, math, and science, and being used to teach all the other what I would call the second page subjects in French. And so at the end of the day, when we think about the research that's come out on the right to read, the ministry's direction around the need for explicit instruction in those core subjects, that's new information that we have, and it's research-based. So we know that spending 150 minutes on the core subjects is going to benefit all of our students. By doing this as well, we're going to be optimizing our FSL staffing. And also for some students, it'll lower the number of teachers that an individual student has in a day. Because with 50-50, it makes the timetabling more streamlined. And for an individual child, that probably in some schools, that will result in fewer teachers, which students will benefit from and the families will really appreciate, especially if the students are younger. The other positive, Connor, can we go back one second? Thank you. The other strength, I've already mentioned that, when we know better, we do better. All the research around the impacts of streaming have come to light. And French immersion does stream students. It separates them into 2 groups. And what we need to do is we need to find strategies and we need to implement the program in a way that minimizes the negative impacts of streaming. So by going with a 50-50 model across our CDSB, that is going to allow us to have the students who are in core French with the students from extended French or French immersion, whichever programming the school offers, for half the day. They can be together for their English subjects. So they can be together for English language, math, and science. It does take some time to figure out. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle when you're timetabling. And we are going to bring school principals and vice principals together with admin who have done this type of timetabling to learn from each other and to learn the tips and tricks, to blend the students as much as possible, because that will de-stream them. And we know that that is what the research shows is beneficial for all students. In terms of next steps, the first part is support. I just mentioned we're going to continue to work with our school administration teams on best practices, mentioned the timetabling. The central team is working with schools on great strategies regarding recruitment and retention of FSL teachers. And finally, we also want to promote, and this speaks to the ministry's 3rd goal around engagement, right? Promoting an FSL culture in all of our schools. Like all of our schools have French. And let's promote that. Let's have it on the announcements. Let's have it on the bulletin boards. Let's promote bilingualism in all of our schools, regardless of whether the school offers core French, extended, and/or French immersion. Finally, in terms of promotion, following today's presentation, we are going to advise school admin of the changes. Tomorrow, we have a senior admin meeting, and we are going to have a voluntary Q&A with them to clarify any questions that they may have about the changes that we're implementing. We have a press release that has gone out about the expansion at Highview and Mackenzie Community School. And finally, we already mentioned the information nights. So we've scheduled the information nights for Highview and Mackenzie for now because it impacts enrollment. For Sherwood and Rockwood, we're looking at communication after March break because it does not impact our enrollment. And we just want to make sure there's having a bit of space when it's 2 different topics will help with clarity. And that concludes the information that we wanted to share. I will open it up to any additional questions that you have.
Any questions?
I know.
Okay.
We currently in Mackenzie have difficulties getting qualified French teachers at all. And so that has been a big question is how are you going to find teachers?
So when we get together for the timetabling, that's the first step is to look at how we are using the teachers that we currently have to make sure that they are teaching in French full-time. That's step number one. Our central team under Superintendent Riddell, they have been going to job fairs. We've even talked about, for example, simple things like we have an English posting for an FSL teacher or the FSL teacher pool. Let's have a French version of it and put out the French version because we know we're close to Quebec. We know that we have French-speaking educators in the province whose first language is French that we want to attract. And so let's put out a posting that's in French as well. We've talked about, we have promotional videos that we're in the process of creating that we're going to use for recruitment and retention of staff. Again, let's embed the French into there so that we really are demonstrating our commitment to having a bilingual learning environment and work environment, because I think that piece will attract more bilingual staff to our CDSB. So we have some strategies. We also partner with OPSPA and learn from them and from the other school boards around the strategies that they've used. And so they frequently share out opportunities for funding and success, strategies that other school boards are using as well.
Okay, and just one follow-up, and then I promise I'm done. What about the existing teachers that we have? A lot of people, like many of the teachers that I had, Penelope is going to have, so we're very connected with our teachers. They're worried that that means they're going to lose their jobs or be moved to Pembroke and we won't see them anymore.
Well, so what I would say is that the early French immersion programming is going to be phased in, right? So it's going to be phased in over a couple of years. And we know we have such a huge demand for all teachers. We do not anticipate this negatively impacting our staff. We know we have to find more French teachers, but we need teachers in all programs. So we don't anticipate a negative impact on staffing. Yeah. Thanks. Any other questions?
We go first, Susan. Jan, go for it.
We worked hard to get this chance. Mine was around staffing actually as well. Where we are going from middle French immersion to extended French. Does that have any impact on staffing?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So the two schools that had what we've been calling middle French immersion, they currently have 64% of their day in French, 36% of their day in English, and we're going to be transitioning to a 50-50 model. So there will be a little bit of savings of time there, like instructional minutes in French, that it'll help us be more efficient with the timetabling, which we hope will also help us maximize the use of our FSL teachers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all I had. The 60-40. So can we just be clear on which schools are 60-40? I think that was one of the questions that we had originally because we weren't clear on that.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you clarified that it's only 30 minutes a day. It's not huge numbers by any means, but I know that was one of the issues when we first made the changes, right? Because some of the schools were like 66% and it's a bit of a concern. Anyway, so if you don't mind clarifying that for me.
Absolutely. In the Renfrew family of schools, we have Central and Queen Elizabeth, who are both currently at 60-40, who will be transitioning to 50-50. And then in the Petawawa family of schools, we have Herman, Pineview, and Valor, who are all at 60-40, and they would be transitioning to 50-50. So those are the 5 schools right now in our CDSB that have the 60-40 model.
So we will be looking at much more consistency across the district, which I think is a benefit all around, right?
Absolutely. We will have one consistent model for French immersion. And then as we shared, the 50-50 model will allow for the blending of students, which will end up being streaming for the English subjects. So English language, math, and science, which will be of huge benefit to all the students.
Thank you.
Let me just add, when we say 60-40, and that's up to grade 6, because I'll use Valor, for example, when they're scheduled in the past, when they've scheduled, it's like scheduling 2 schools when it comes to French immersion. You've got your grades 1 to 6 on a 60-40 model. And then that in and of itself makes the teachers ineligible for the 7 and 8 that are on a 50-50 model. But if you're in the 50-50 model, then you're ineligible to like, so it's not effective use. And in terms of combined classes between a grade 6 and a grade 7, you can't combine them because they're not on the same percentages. Having that consistency will allow us to make far greater use of FSL qualified teachers in FSL classrooms, rather than have them teach bits and pieces in English just because we're filling their schedule. So it is an important shift.
That's helpful. Thank you.
That's a really great additional point.
Yeah.
The fact that it's the 60-40 is for grade 4 to 6, and then it switches to 50-50 and 7-8 in those 5 schools. And then that also adds another layer of complexity to the timetable. Yeah.
Right? Renaud, you couldn't have put it any better. I'm only one trustee, but I've been researching this for a better part of a year because I knew this conversation was coming. And between what you've said and our director, and I'm being a generalist at first, I really see a lot of benefits in the way it appears to be moving forward and unfolding. Before I started doing the research, I had some serious hesitation, but in fairness, I really wanted to, maybe being an old retired guy, I took the time and I've read a lot of articles and I've spoken to a lot of people, both in our board and outside our board. And I think one of the features that we really need to hit home about is the fact that if it's gone from, let's say 60-40, it's a matter of 30 minutes a day. I think that really is a key thing that needs to be very front and center. I also really like the fact that there's going to be moving forward, if this plan it becomes operational, that there's a lot less, I would say, I'm thinking of the word divisiveness, but I'm not thinking of the right word when it comes to peers in schools. I think that there's much more sort of a sense of belonging with a model like this moving forward. I do think it's more wise, as Renaud said, more wise use of our resources, particularly those French teachers that we have. And with timetabling, I know that, I mean, I've asked the questions privately and it's been, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's been somewhat of a nightmare sometimes when it comes to timetabling for buildings. So for all those reasons, I think that the executive team has put forth, I think they've sort of, generally speaking, they're sort of spot on. I think that, let's say a community like Petawawa that is, I guess, percentage wise more of the French speaking culture. We've got more French speaking people that are in that area that have come from, let's say, the armed forces. I think that there might be some more reluctance there, but I think the 30 minutes a day is a good selling feature. So for all the reasons, I really like the fact that there's information nights. I do want to, out of curiosity, also attend a couple of those. So thank you for your time and effort. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Anybody else?
And it's not a question. I did just want to share that the overwhelming feedback that I've received is very positive, and a number of people saying they're going to pull their kids from either Bishop or St. Mary's, the local Catholic school, so that their kids have an opportunity to do French immersion. So despite all of those questions, I think people are very excited. Just inquisitive.
Yeah, I've been waiting for, the report. I think all of us for this report for a little while. And when we started off with FSL, this is the vision that we saw, right? That it'd be in, like every school for everybody, for all the students, and we're certainly progressing that way. So yeah, and to see it expand into Highview and to Mackenzie, it's good for those students and good for their future because, just to have, like Jody had talked about, moving your children to Aquinox, right? So that's where our children went because we wanted to give them, like a bilingual education, but there was no real bilingual stuff. So, we taught them English at home as best we could. And then, French at school. And like I had said before that, if this program had been, implemented, when our kids were younger, we certainly would have done, this. So, yeah. So it's good. Everybody has, touch this, right? Thank you all for this. Lots of, background stuff, just trying to organize this and get it to us. Thank you. Okay, on to the next, yes, as exciting report.
Thanks. And at the risk of sounding repetitious for those who heard the verbal update a couple of weeks ago, you were given a written update on the adult and Con Ed review. And quite a bit of it is capturing some of my comments I made, but I will expand a little bit further. So as you all know, our intention was to have this review done in the fall. And certainly the request for proposal process made it such that it took a little bit longer. But we managed to land on a third party, KPMG, that is very well versed in the education sector and are also involved concurrently on a number of reviews of adult and continuing education programs. So we feel we've got the appropriate third party reviewing our current status and providing us with their best thinking based on our local reality, as well as keeping in mind the provincial context and providing us with some insights as how some of the perhaps successful adult and continuing education programs are running in other districts. So we officially launched the review in January with KPMG. We met with their team, and we certainly Anne Gagan, principal of adult and continuing ed, and I have been meeting with Sue, Brad, Brian, and Martina on a bi-weekly basis. They provide us with an update of the work that they have done, and their approach is very methodical. As you have it outlined in the written report, they start with the frontline workers, and really what they want an unfiltered access to staff. Those who do the day-to-day work, they had a very well structured series of questions. They wanted to understand, what does it look like currently? And we shared with them a number of documents, including documents that had been submitted by the adult and Con Ed staff last year for the Rethink It Secondary. All these documents were shared with KPMG as part of their data collection. They conducted 8 interviews, some group interviews, some individual interviews with the frontline staff to really get a sense, how's it working? So that was the first layer. The second layer of their work was meeting with some of the managers, supervisors, to get a sense of our understanding. I say ours because I was one of those interviewed as the superintendent overseeing the program. What is our understanding of how programs are running? And are we understanding how funding flows through from the ministry into our programs? So that was their second layer. And now they've retreated so they can really dig through their findings to provide us with essentially an assessment of current practices. And they're doing this keeping in mind that one of the drivers has been over time, a continuous reduction in the number of students at full-time equivalencies that are participating in our credit program. That's been trending over time. It's been shrinking down from what used to be approximately a 70 FTE down to about 17 FTE. So it's a significant reduction over time. And that's one of the drivers. The other part they're trying to reconcile is this balance right now between the revenues and the cost of running the program. So they're looking at all these tensions, and they are taking this up to the higher level, and they will be providing us with a full, I'm going to say more than a report, I'm going to say a roadmap. Because I think when they land on their recommendations, they will provide us with a roadmap. We had a follow-up conversations with them yesterday. And I suspect what will be coming from them is if you wish to be offering all of these programs, here's how you can do so successfully, but here's the roadmap to get there. And keeping in mind all of the conditions that we've talked about. I would say the nice thing for us right now has been that we've been facilitating their access to staff, to documents, to data, to financial details. And we're letting them crunch the numbers for us, but also because of their involvement provincially and in the sector, they'll be able to provide us with what I feel is going to be a solid roadmap. I suspect they will be providing us with the pathways towards viability and sustainability. And I think as an organization, that's what we want. So our next steps with KPMG, they will be providing us with a rough draft of their recommendations, probably the week of the March break. They will be meeting with us as an exec team coming back from the March break, and they will be with us virtually at the COW meeting, Committee of the Whole, on the 26th to share some of their responses. So I feel from an integrity standpoint, we've got a full review by I'm going to say a very reputable third party that will then deliver, again, unfiltered to trustees. Here's our findings. And should you wish to follow these recommendations, here's a proposed roadmap. So that's where we're at right now. And again, every time we've met with them, my takeaway has been that the review is in good hands. I'm open to any questions, should there be any at this time. We're a month away from that coming to us in person, well, virtually.
Yes.
I do. Great to hear that. And I've certainly heard good things about KPMG from other boards as well. So that's comforting to know. One question I'm not sure if this was part of the scope, was to look at how we connect with Con Ed with regards to our students who are in a SAL program. And maybe that wasn't in the scope this time, but how do we, I guess that's the question. Was it in scope or discussion or not?
Yes. So they're very much looking, so we've provided SAL data to them.
Okay.
And not only number of students on SAL, but how many are successful. So they've got all this, they've had this data, and that was part of the mandate for them to look at beyond simply you run or you don't run, but as a whole organization, if we're making changes, making sure that the roadmap doesn't have some unintended consequences that we had not anticipated. So no, they're very inclusive of all those aspects in their considerations.
Hopefully they'll be bringing some recommendations.
Yes.
How we move forward in that, because I think that's an area we've all become quite concerned about, in that we perhaps are not servicing our students the way we could or should, or how do we make it better for them? I guess that's the piece.
Yep.
So that's good to hear. Hear that. Thank you.
My question is around scope as well. And it's something that I brought up at the last meeting, which is our ESL families and immigrant families, some of whom have children who are not yet in school, or who wish to put their children in school. However, they can't get a job, and so they're having difficulties getting daycare, etc. So are these families who are not necessarily parent families yet considered in this study? Because I think right now that's the only way that they access these the ESL programming locally.
So we made them aware of our current model delivery for adult ESL. We also informed them that we've pursued other opportunities. But having them review what are there untapped opportunities that we haven't looked at, explored yet? And is this the right timing, or to keep in mind when they're providing the roadmap in terms of sequencing, this is a next step now, or this is a next step when? So yes, that's indirectly what I'm saying is that is part of their consideration, knowing that the composition of Renfrew County has changed and continues to change. So what are some of those opportunities that we should be considering in terms of serving our community?
Thank you. Anybody else? Mike?
Yeah, just briefly, I go back in the days when we had offsite for students who were really, really challenging. Some of those students fall in the SAL category. And it's been really disheartening for me to see some of those students at high risk not have the luxury, and I say luxury, of attending sort of an alternative niche school off the school grounds. And some of those students that maybe 7 to 10 years ago, when I was near the end of my career, that let's say were in the building, some of those students were very challenging for the administration, the teachers too, on a day-to-day basis deal with. They really had at times, I would say, a negative, impactful situation on our schools. So, I mean, like I echo what Susan said, it's concerning to me, but I mean, I've listened for the second time now to Renault's what he's just said, and basically, it sounds to me like we're in really good hands. I never, just out of curiosity, and you may know this number off the top of your head. I mean, sounds like we've hired some very confident, knowledgeable people, consultants. Is there a dollar figure for this? Is it like, are we giving them so much now and then so much later when it's concluded, or like, I'm just wondering, I mean, it's going to be done, it's going to be done right. I'm just curious what it's costing the school, the district, our district. I don't know. I mean, I don't need to know that now, but I'm just curious.
It's a contract. I'm not sure.
Anyway, we don't have to, but I'm just saying.
We can have that conversation offline.
Just saying, it's well worth it because from a distance, I don't have anything directly to do with continuing an adult ed, but I have seen, like you said, the numbers seriously declining in some areas, and it's quite concerning.
Yeah, just to the numbers, I think what we need to appreciate is where we are as a district now is not where we were 20 years ago. We've had 20 years of student success initiatives. We're at a different space and time. My learning in interacting with KPMG is to keep an open mind when they do present their findings, keeping an open mind, because they're looking at it from through an efficiency lens, and they will provide us with a pathway. And sometimes organizations keep doing things because that's how we've done it and it seems to be working. But here's an opportunity to have someone with a fresh set of eyes, with the experience in the sector, having a critical look at our operations, say, look, KPMG, to put it bluntly, at the end of this exercise, if we decide to completely dismiss their report, probably next morning, Suk will probably still wake up and enjoy his coffee. But I think we as an organization need to take this opportunity to then reflect on how we receive and hopefully implement some of the recommendations, because that's what we committed to do in order to ensure that we have a program that meets our needs, but is also sustainable.
Just to add, and that is, I mean, in the last 20 years, you've seen student success grow, and for all the good reasons for student success in niche programs, we've seen a much higher retention rate, a much lesser dropout rate. And for those reasons, they might be able to help us figure that out moving forward because, although it's been concerning to me, I mean, our dropout rates are significantly less. So we're retaining students to a much higher degree than we used to. And that might be a significant factor is to why our numbers are decreasing. Just a theory that I don't have any real, other than just, my thoughts, it's a theory that could be, like you say, part of the real gist of what's been going on here gradually for the last, 10, 15, 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thanks, Renal. Look forward to the report next month. That's all I have for the committee as a whole, and I'm early. Before anybody says anything, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Seconder, thanks, Mike. All in favor? Got 10 minutes to go for 4.
So we'll start the board at 3. For February 27th, 2024, and welcome everyone who is around the table today. I am going to start with the territorial acknowledgement, and I'm actually going to do that today. We acknowledge that the land on which our school and district buildings are situated is the traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin people. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples on the land on which we gather here today. We do have an invocation, and I believe Ava, one of our student trustees, student trustee Beggs, are you okay to do the invocation for us this afternoon?
Yeah, of course, I can do it.
Thank you.
May we who are assembled here have a true understanding of the duties that are placed in our hands. We seek to have the wisdom to honor our obligations to the good of the residents of Renfrew County, to the parents, teachers, electors, and especially the students. May those who teach be ever inspired by goodness, and may the wisdom and knowledge which they impart to our students ever serve as a beacon of light, to lighten their way. As trustees and administrators, we work together with integrity, perseverance, and respect to the fulfillment of the trust bestowed upon us.
Thank you very much, Student Trustee Beggs. And I would like to especially welcome our guest today that we're going to hear and see more about in a little while, but it's lovely to have you join us today as well. I am looking for a motion to approve the agenda, but I do have a request to make 2 changes to it. First of all, I'd like to move the attendance to follow the introduction of our new trustee. And I would also like to add an update on the Renfrew County Joint Transportation Consortium. That would be under committee reports under number 11. So I require a mover and a seconder to confirm that amended agenda. So Trustee Gannett and Trustee, sorry, I just had a little brain freeze here. Primo, I'll get it. Thank you so much.
Go down south for a couple of weeks.
All in favor of the amended agenda? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And I just need to have a sense of whether we have any conflict of interest around the table today based on the amended agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on. I am looking for approval of the minutes that were sent out earlier to you for the minutes of January the 30th, the board meeting, as well as the February 7th and 21st special board meeting. I require a mover and a seconder to confirm the minutes of those 3 meetings. Trustee Doherty, thank you. And seconded by Trustee Boland. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments on those minutes? Hopefully you've had a chance to review them. All those in favor of moving those forward and approving them, thank you very much. And that's approved. All right. The next item on our agenda, as we kind of reviewed a little bit, is that, as you know, we are going to swear in a new trustee this afternoon. Very exciting times. We've been through the process over the last few months of asking for interest, people who might like to sit as a trustee representing the Petawawa area. You would remember that we lost a long-serving trustee Morris in early November. But thankfully, we've had lots of great interest in this position. Ended up going through quite a vigorous interview process, which certainly came out, I think, with a very strong candidate for us. So we're very pleased today. So I think I'll ask Director Nimi, and we'll get our new trustee to join us at the table over there for the swearing in. And for those of you who haven't met her before, it's Karthi Rajamani, and you may have seen her at the library in Pembroke, actually. So Karthi, if you would like to go over to the table with Kristen, and we'll get this underway.
So Karthi, I'm going to have you read the beginnings, then we are going to find it together, okay?
I, Karthi Rajavani, do solemnly declare that I am not disqualified under any act from being a member of the Renfrew County District School Board. I will truly, faithfully, impartially, and to the best of my ability, execute the office of trustee, and that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of any partiality or malversation or other undue execution of the said office, and that I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, as required by and in accordance with Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I, Karthi Rajamani, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to King Charles III.
Hey, Connor wants to take a few pictures.
Yes.
Congratulations. Sure. Hey, welcome. Get a few photos and centered, uncentered. Pretty centered.
Okay, big smiles. Awesome. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So, turn this at the table.
Yeah.
Nameplate, so you know where you sit, and I'm just gonna say a few words and then I'm gonna sign off. So just on behalf of the board, just want to give you a special welcome and tell you how happy we are that you put your name forward and that we were successful in the interview as well. We know that you bring to the table passion for education. We certainly heard that through your discussion, particularly literacy, of course, with your library background, but that you bring lots of ideas and perspectives on community partnerships, which of course is very important to us as well. I understand you've got a good financial background too. That's always helpful when looking at budgets. So we're just thrilled that you're here with us today and look forward to getting to know you better. And I hope that you enjoy your opportunity with us as well. So I don't know if you wanted to say a few words too.
Thank you. I am honored and thrilled to join Renfrew County District School Board as a trustee. I am excited to contribute to the board's effort to inspire student achievement through dynamic education and inclusive environment with a focus on students' well-being. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I am looking forward to working with you all and make an impact in the Renfrew County School Board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to move on to attendance. So now that we have everybody around the table, so I will do a quick attendance, if I could please. Obviously, am I here? Vice Chair Boland?
Here.
Trustee Doherty? Here. Trustee Ganesh?
Here.
Trustee Primo? Here. Trustee Rajamani? Here. Trustee Ruddy? Here. Student Trustee Beggs? Is online
Here.
with us. Thank you, Ava. Student Trustee Ding, are you online as well?
Here.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you very much. We do have regrets from Trustee Kaiser and Trustee Dobson. And for staff, Director Nemi. Here. Superintendent Barnes. Here. Superintendent Kuzno.
Here.
Superintendent Poirier. Here. Superintendent Riddell. Here. Superintendent Smith. Here. And Executive Officer Kaplan Jensen. Here. Excellent. Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. And I'm going to turn this over to Executive Officer Kaplan Jemison to give us a bit of a report and an update on the Student Support Fund and some of our donors that we are thrilled to have with us today.
That's right. So we do generally do a student support fund update, which would be sort of more numbers and trends and things that we're seeing. Today's presentation is really a donor appreciation. And since I didn't want to miss anything, I have it all in my handy trusty little notes here. So forgive me, I will read my heartfelt notes out. And so I'm pleased to have the honor to speak on behalf of the Renfrew County District School Board to present our first Student Support Fund donor appreciation. And today we gather to express our deepest gratitude to exceptional community partners whose generosity has made a profound impact on the lives of our students. We are honoring, although not all here, the Trinity St. Andrew's Thrift Shop, St. Paul's Anglican Church in Cobden, Kylie Carroll and Tyler Godden of Smitty's Home Hardware in Pembroke, and their parents, Kathy and Alan Godden, who are babysitting some small children, and the staff of the RCDSB who have enrolled in the monthly donor giving program, as well as the families of the RCDSB that have contributed to our giving campaigns in Valentine's of 2023 and Thanksgiving also last year. They all exemplify the true spirit of giving. So a little bit about the Student Support Fund. The Student Support Fund was established to break down barriers to education and ensure that every student has the opportunity to fully engage in student life. Through the Student Support Fund, students have access to essential resources such as food and clothing and financial assistance for university and college applications, for instance, as well as others, extracurricular activities, as well as some cooperative education programs and class excursions. The Student Support Fund plays a crucial role in fostering a supportive and inclusive learning environment for students at the RCDSB. One thing that we're careful to do, though, is not to overlap with pre-existing charitable avenues. And so this really fills the gap often in emergency situations where it's needed in the community. So it's only due to the generosity of staff, families, and these extra special community partners that we can provide the financial resources to ensure that students have a more equitable opportunity to thrive and reach their potential. And so to not bury the lead, as we say in the PR world, this year we have raised, and this is why we are doing a special donor thank you. We have raised almost $52,000 for the Student Support Fund. I will say that is a massive increase from years past. So we didn't do it on our own. We did it because of the people we're honoring today. And so I'd like to call up first our friends from the Trinity St. Andrew's Thrift Store, Bruce and Leslie. You'll come and now talk a bit about you and your organization specifically. So back in the fall of 2023, I had the opportunity with our interim director and our board chair to visit the Trinity St. Andrew's Thrift Shop. And boy, is it not just a store, but it's a community hub driven by a deep sense of purpose and compassion. About 8 years ago, this remarkable initiative blossomed into a community effort involving 60 to 70 dedicated volunteers from various churches in the Renfrew area. Leslie and Bruce shared with me that the volunteers find immense fulfillment in their work, from accepting donations to sorting, pricing items, all with the goal of giving back to the community. The impact of the Trinity St. Andrew's Thrift Shop goes even further. They accept donations from the public, except for furniture and electronics, and they ensure that the items that can't be used still go to good use by contributing them to charities for women in need. This dedication to serving the community is truly inspiring. At the heart of the Trinity St. Andrew's Thrift Shop is a commitment to serving others. Every interaction with customers is filled with respect and kindness. That was evident when we went and we were visiting that day. The commitment extends beyond the store's walls as they donate 10% of their proceeds every quarter to a charity chosen by the TSA board, which includes suggestions from volunteers themselves. I would like to especially thank our own chairperson, Susan Humphreys, who suggested the Student Support Fund as for consideration, and to Linda Bolt and the board for selecting us as their worthy beneficiary in 2023. A further glimpse into the work of this incredible 60+ volunteers. The thrift shop is open to anyone, 9 to 2 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, on Thursdays 12 to 6. And Saturdays 10 to 2. And when they're not open to the public, they're busy accepting donations, sorting, pricing, and so on, and recycling items. So Bruce, who's a member of the board and a volunteer, has spearheaded a new focus on the men's area and the odds and sods, which has, I'm sure my husband would enjoy very much, and it's increased enhanced the store's offering. Leslie, also a board member and a volunteer since the shop opened, oversees the finances and ensures accountability and transparency. And together, they, along with many volunteers, embody the spirit of community and compassion that so aligns perfectly with the mission of the Student Support Fund. This work is a shining example of how small acts of kindness can make a big difference to the lives of others. And when I learned about the donation, I decided to parlay that into a matching campaign, and that was around Thanksgiving. And the October Thanksgiving campaign hit the target that we had set of $8,000. And that was with the $3,000 from the TSA and inspiring our own families and staff to give. And we saw about $5,000 to make that $8,000. So thank you for your donation, for all you do to make our community a better place, a more affordable place, for recycling items and giving them a second and third life to be enjoyed and out of landfills, and for sharing the profits of your volunteerism with the students and families of the RCDSB and many other organizations. So please accept this plaque and a letter of appreciation and a tax receipt, and please think of us. Please think of us again in the future. Susan, would you please come up and join us, as well as Director Nemi, for a photo with our friends.
I don't know.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Isn't that awesome? Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Thanks very much. We really appreciate it. Welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you're welcome to leave. Thank you. Okay. Perfect. So you're on call one more time. Oh, okay. So now we're going to express our gratitude to Smitty's Home Hardware. Kaylee and Tyler, if you would join me up here, while I take a moment to make your cheeks blush a little bit. So I now have the great honor of showcasing our incredible friends from Smitty's Home Hardware and their unwavering commitment to the support of our students. It's with such a pleasure that we take this time to formally express our deepest gratitude to Smitty's Home Hardware Building Center and their owners, Callie Carroll and brother and sister, Callie Carroll and Tyler Godin, for their extraordinary generosity and ongoing commitment to the Student Support Fund. Their commitment to partner with the Student Support Fund is year over year. That means this is the beginning of a long partnership, and that's truly remarkable. And it will help countless students overcome financial barriers and participate fully in school life, enriching experience that otherwise would have been out of reach. Kaylee and Tyler have asked that we not share the full scope of their endowment, but I can tell you that the needs for the Student Support Fund have doubled over the past few years. So much so that as an organization, we are keenly aware of an imminent need to find a solution to sustain the Student Support Fund. And then, as if the universe was listening, and it changed everything. And honestly, it restored my faith in humanity. It was Callie calling to learn more about the learn more about the Student Support Fund. She was looking for an avenue to give back to the community that they had grown up in. They wanted to give other kids the opportunity they saw a deep need for. And in the Student Support Fund, I think you found a mechanism to realize your goals of equalizing and breaking down barriers. I thought that I had misheard, that there was an extra zero, maybe out of hope, but I had heard correctly. Commitment to an ongoing relationship will ensure that students and families for years to come will benefit in ways we can only imagine because of this new relationship. A little more about Smitty's Home Hardware, which has a rich history in Pembroke in the community, with roots dating back to the days of Hodgkins Lumber. Al Godden, their father, began his journey with Hodgkins in the lumberyard in 1974, earning $1.97 per hour. In 1976, Beaver Lumber bought Hodgkins, and a year later, Kathy Hubert began working at the contractor desk. By 1982, Kathy and Al were married and eventually became the parents of Kaylee and Tyler. 2001, this is your life. 2001, Home Hardware purchased Beaver Lumber, and the store was renamed Smitty's Home Hardware Building. The current store officially opened in March of 2006, and with their dedication and hard work, Al and Kathy Godden took over full ownership from Bob Smith in 2008. Kaylee and Tyler began working at the store part-time when they were still in school, learning the value of hard work and balancing work and school obligations as well. Tyler returned from graduation from the University of Ottawa with a chemical engineering degree in 2011, with the intent of succeeding Al and Kathy as parents. He married his wife, Christine, in 2009. Callie graduated from the University of Ottawa in 2012 with a business degree and moved to Alberta to work with Labatt Breweries. She married Jesse Carroll in 2018 and moved back to Pembroke as well in 2020 to partner with her brother in the business. Callie and Jesse have two sons, Mickey and Owen. The elder will be in JK a year September. So they don't even have children in our not yet. And yet this need and desire to give back is just truly astounding. As you can tell, the Godden family takes great pride in the business and community. They have 55 employees, many longtime employees, and some have been around since the Beaver Lumber days. They consider their success a direct result of their excellent staff, but we all know that good employers keep excellent and happy employees. The commitment to the Godden family, to the Student Support Fund is truly inspiring. Kaylee's firsthand experience and Tyler's during the pandemic, particularly with the birth of her first child, highlighted the importance of access to programs and extracurricular activities for all children. This realization fueled their passion for supporting the Student Support Fund, ensuring that all children have equal opportunities. The Godden family and their employees' dedication to the community is evident in the deep investment of the well-being of Pembroke and its residents. Not only have they donated to the Student Support Fund and committed ongoing funds, but they also created an in-store holiday event and raised an additional $1,692, with the plans for an April fun fair for Pembroke families that will generate additional money for the Student Support Fund. So we are really proud to work with you and to promote these community events. In addition to their personal and business contributions, Callie and Tyler's commitment Kaylee, and sorry, I keep doing that. I know Italian. To philanthropy has inspired their parents to make a significant contribution to the Student Support Fund as well, further amplifying their impact. Their dedication to supporting the Student Support Fund year after year demonstrates the unwavering commitment, and we thank you. So Callie and Tyler, for your dedication to philanthropy, your commitment to the Student Support Fund, and your truly inspiring example. You've touched the hearts of many. We are grateful for your generosity. Thank you for being a shining example to the community leadership and for inspiring all of us, hopefully, to make a difference. So please come on up, accept these certificates, a tax receipt or three. I also have for your parents if you would take with you as well. So we have one for 2003 and one for 2004 to represent the ongoing commitment.
Don't say anything. Perfect. Thank you.
On the way out, you can just grab this one as well. Oh, yes. So we also have certificates for contribution for contributors to the fund over $1,000, including St. Paul's Anglican Church in Cobden, who significantly supported the Student Support Fund for several years. And we hope to have them in person for next year's donor appreciation presentation. Letter of thanks will accompany the tax refunds that we send out to all of our donors. And with that, I will say thank you very much for entertaining this presentation. And I just want to encourage, and I hope that we are all inspired by the donations that we've seen today, and that we can continue to meet these growing demands of the Student Support Fund. I will let you know that at this point, we are already $5,000 more spent, more of a need than we were last year at this time. So as that need continues to rise with the inflation and growing cost of living, that it is only with people like our staff, even our students and families who have been very generous, as well as our community partners, that we're able to keep this program going, which really fulfills the strategic plan of the board in breaking down barriers and equalizing. So I think it leads in nicely to the next report that we're going to be here on the work plan and the strategic work plan. This certainly is a contributing factor to doing that equalization and equity piece. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Meredith. That was beautifully. Yeah. And it's lovely to have some of our community donors with us this afternoon. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you.
Safe travels. Thank you so much. On to our next agenda item then. We're going to call on Director Nemi, who will introduce the strategic plan mid-year update. I believe she will be supported by, of course, all the other senior staff around the table. Look forward to hearing that.
Absolutely. So I have my phone just so that I can see what slides are behind me, so that I don't turn my back to you while we're presenting. So we are very pleased to bring you an update about the staff's I'm going to change that word, implementation of the strategic plan during this school year, the 2023-2004 school year. As you know, we have a staff work plan where all of the goals, there are 23 goals and objectives in the RCDSV strategic plan. There are 23 of them in there, and we have mapped out as a team how we are putting those into action on a yearly basis. And then the staff regularly bring you updates around the annual action plans and make links back to the strategic plan goals and objectives. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some specific ones. But before that, I'm just going to, time out. Yep. So we will go to the next slide and talk about how all of our work is grounded in our vision, our mission, and our values. And as well, we know that highlighting the fact that we are committed to stewardship of resources and measurement of our progress over time. Our work is always grounded in our 3 strategic priorities as well. So we have inspiring community engagement and partnerships, achieving excellence in teaching and learning, and empowering equity and well-being. So what we did for this school year is we looked at the 23 goals and objectives that are in the strategic plan, and I handed out some copies earlier so that you could look in there and dig in while we're presenting to you. But we have 23 of them. What we did was we identified 8 focus goals for this school year. So 2 in the first 3 sections of the strategic plan. So 2 under inspire, 2 under empower, 2 under achieve, 1 under stewardship of resources, and 1 under monitoring our progress. So 8 for what we're calling focus goals for the 2023-2024 school year. And that is what we're going to bring today in our update, is a highlight or some updates around those 8 goals. Knowing that throughout the year, we're bringing you updates that connect to probably almost every single goal and objective in the strat plan if we were to do an audit, right? Because every report that you read or receive connects to the goals and objectives from the strategic plan. So today we're going to focus on these 8 focus goals. And we are going to start with inspiring community engagement and partnerships with focus goal number 1. And I'm going to turn it over to Meredith.
Thanks. So we're just going to stand in place for ours. And I'll ask Tyler, a lot, sorry.
Changes, right?
Exactly, big pivot, quick. The hub, if you wouldn't mind, clicking on the link, we're going to take you to the hub. So the focus goal is collaborate constructively with all staff as well as Federation Union partners by soliciting their input and supporting their effort to serve the diverse needs of students in the effective and efficient operation of the organization. And so together, Jacqueline and I will present on this, and I have the first piece and she has the following. So the hub, if we click on it, and I know that it's not working. Oh, well, you'll actually, so here's what I can just tell you about it. So Leo actually commented on it at the last meeting, and how this began was we wanted to highlight the decisions that were being made at the board with the staff. And so in communications, we talk about push and pull. So that's pushing out information. But then we realized, and as you'll see from my theme, I guess today, that it's important to leverage these opportunities. And so while we're pushing out information, and we have this, what Hannah and myself, together with the director's office last year, this was created in April, was a Google site. And so this site stays live. And while it started off with the idea of just having board highlights, we also have a place to have all of these staff resources in one place. And together with the staff resources, there's also a place for community spotlights. So we found that the community would ask us to share things with schools, and this was now an efficient, as we look, an effective way of operating in the organization. And then I think as important, or even maybe the most important, is sharing our stories and telling our stories and sharing our successes amongst the amongst staff. So we solicit from staff some of the wonderful, innovative learning that's happening in their classrooms. And it's called Spotlight on Learning. And so if you go into the hub, you'll see that there are 3 pages. One is the Spotlight on Learning. One is the main page. Then we have the community. The Spotlight on Learning, we also ask, and this is our way of soliciting from the organization some of their best teachings and things that have been really successful. Oh, there we are. Some of the things that have been really successful. And so we changed the name just a few months ago from Board Brief to a more inclusive hub, because the thing is, we all know that our teachers and our staff have many different things in their email boxes and and so we wanted to create one place that you could go where you're going to get the community events, where you can have your resources, where you can be inspired by the learning of your peers, and you can learn about what the board is doing. And so this is an ongoing newsletter, so to speak, that lives and is updated regularly. And then after every board meeting, we try to send it out to the staff so that they can see it, but they can access it at any time. And so that is one way in which we're fulfilling the first goal. Jacqueline?
Okay, thank you. So the next piece speaks to the collaborative professionalism, and part of the goal was our ability to collaborate with our union partners and staff. And so I've just highlighted a few of the things that we have been doing. And I go back to last March break where we collaborated with QP 1247, which is the union that our custodial staff and plant staff, as an example, are part of. And with the provincial QP, we collaborated on the delivering of an equity presentation to all members with a shared vision of increasing knowledge and understanding of equity with that group. And this coming March break, we're also following up with learning with the same group on focus on truth and reconciliation, and this time supported by our Indigenous education team. But the collaboration piece is both parties coming together and saying, what are those things that we feel would be beneficial and supportive. In terms of our educational support personnel, in particular our EAs, we have also participated in collaboration with them in planning face-to-face learning opportunities that focus on learning from each other. And that was on one of our professional development days. So we're really trying to work with the educational assistant group to really enhance the knowledge and sense of belonging, the sense of value to that team, and the efficacy that they have in their roles, and that they have much to share with each other and to learn from each other. So by doing the face-to-face on a PA day where others might be engaged in other work, they were able to be celebrated and do some learning together. We did in the last year collaborate with our current Ps and VPs, the administration, to develop our current leadership plan, which is just coming up on its first year full implementation. And we continue to collaborate with them in refining that process as we learn and reflect as we go along. In terms of some of our labor groups, and we don't have this with all of them, but it is part of some collective agreements or terms and conditions. And I call them labor management meetings in quotes because OPCs isn't really labor management, but that's the coined term. It's regular meetings with both of the QP locals, 1247 and 1321, and OPC to say, how are things going? Are there things we could be proactive about? Is there anything else we need to be doing? I would say we have unofficial labor management meetings with the other groups quite regularly, and we speak, many times a week, and in good ways of just supporting each other and bouncing ideas, and sometimes dealing with concerns, of course, that come up. A bigger highlight too, I want to really point out, was the ongoing collaboration between the school support counselors and special services staff. And this has happened over a number of years throughout this strategic plan, where we've worked with them to define and clarify their roles. And we've talked about this at other presentations on the importance of that as we've moved to this different tiered model of support. And the collaboration itself has led to 3 central school support counselors who support new learning, ongoing capacity building, and a renewed understanding of the work of the school support counselor in our district, which of course has been very important to supporting the mental health and well-being of our students. I put a little coming soon area. So we're working out a new structure for our workplace violence committee. And this includes all union presidents at the table. And it's a committee that we've had for a long period of time, but we're reflecting on its purpose and redefining what it's looking like and what the collaboration is. And we actually just met with them last week for our first meeting, and it went well. And we have ideas for what we'll discuss in our future meetings. You saw in, you may have seen this previously, but we will be reviewing a special leave AP using a collaborative approach to bring forth changes to that AP, and that will gather staff voice. And also we're doing some collaboration on supervision schedules specifically for elementary schools, and that will involve different members of the school community, including the principals.
And in the coming, in 24-25, I do have a plan to do some more collaborative pieces on workplace well-being with all of our union groups.
So I'm going to do the next, but before I do that, I'm just going to circle back for a quick second to say I was inspired by the director's presentation on French, in that the term Kaizen and the learning and the growing and the changing and the implementing, always learning better. And so I want to say, when it comes to the hub, one thing that we would really appreciate and like is, how can we better improve this and make it more useful? So I just wanted to use the opportunity to solicit that feedback, both for trustees, but also for any staff. So moving on, so the focus goal number 2 is to encourage the entire student body through student councils and student senate to continue to seek a diversity of student voice of all backgrounds and interests, so that student perspectives are reflected in activities and initiatives system-wide. And so in an effort to center student voice, we have our 2 student trustees who are doing the work. So I'm going to turn it over to Ava and Grace in this unique experience, because they're the ones that are doing the work, to talk about the next 2 slides. And I also just want to recognize and thank Hannah for her work in working with them, as well as all the staff and the trustees that participate in student senate. So over to Ava for the first slide.
Okay, so Student Senate works collaboratively as a group to amplify the student voice across the system through school and district-wide activities and initiatives. Our pillars for the school year include improving our environmental sustainability, prioritizing equity within schools, and positive student experience. We came up with these pillars at the first meeting of the year, when we sat down with our group of senators and went over areas that we felt the board could improve on. Another example of collaboration within the Senate is our May Mental Health Week planning. During this process, representatives from each school were able to give their input on a collaborative day that will be held across the board, as well as 4 other days curated to their individual school demographic.
And Grace will lead us in the next slide.
So on Student Senate, we make sure to reflect the different perspectives and interests of all of our students, and we always make sure to prioritize the diversity of our different students in our board. We also make sure to share resources and discuss them, such as mental health resources at our last meeting. And finally, we make sure to cultivate relationships between students as well as staff to students. For example, at Student Senate meetings, we invite board staff to partner with our students and interact with each other to hear feedback and work on projects together.
So the next and last slide on this is a video, and I'll introduce the video by saying that, again, as a mechanism of showing the importance of centering student voice and hearing directly from them. We have Ava, Grace, and some other students from RCI that will talk about a few more examples of how this is being done. So,
on Student Senate, we discuss the importance of safe spaces, such as GSAs, and we also try to encourage events and extracurriculars that include the interests of all students. For example, at Mackenzie, we have sports clubs as well as robotics, arts, cooking, and theater.
At RCI, we are working towards unity and equality in all aspects.
For Pink Shirt Day, as a joint collaboration between our GSA and Student Council, we have decided to hold a pink tie-dye event in support of ending bullying in our school and our communities.
Student Senate has allowed us to partner up with different system leads within the school board. These partnerships allow us to give a student perspective on a project or initiative before it takes place. Not only does this benefit the school board by amplifying student voice, but it also allows our senators to take resources and ideas back to their individual schools.
So I'd just like to thank them for their presentation and directly answering the question on the goal of the activities, the initiatives, and how student voice is collaborative in coming up with their pillars. So thank you so much.
Moving on to empower equity and well-being and focus goal number 3, which states organize opportunities for authentic, engaging learning for students, staff, and school communities related to anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion, including professional learning for staff regarding bias awareness and critical consciousness. So what I'd like to say in terms of our work, we need to acknowledge that equity, anti-racism, anti-oppression work is inherently iterative, continuously evolving in response to shifting norms, perspectives, and needs. It involves ongoing process of reflection, learning, and action to dismantle the systemic barriers and foster environments where all individuals are valued and empowered. Each iteration builds upon previous learning and aims to deepen our collective understanding of the organization, resulting in practices that are more inclusive for all. So if we move to the next slide, please. So all this work is done through a human rights approach. Not in the pictures here, but members of the senior team regularly participate in virtual learning sessions with human rights experts such as Najeri Sojourner Campbell from Hicks Morley to strengthen our collective understanding of the Ontario Human Rights Code as a guiding document to our work. Staff and students engage in learning and awareness campaigns throughout the school year, such as Holocaust Remembrance Day that we see in the middle here, Black History Month, and Pride events. Through professional learning opportunities with community partners, staff have begun the process of decolonizing the curriculum by learning math through an Indigenous perspective. Next slide, please. So what we have also done is to empower our staff to act and respond by providing protocols, tools that empower them to do so. So you have here our guide to responding to discrimination, our gender identity and gender expression guidelines, and examples of our no space for hate posters. We continue through this work, we continue to analyze and disaggregate our demographic data results, and we will continue to refine our resources in support of this work. I will hand it over to Jenny now.
So I'm going to speak to focus goal number 4, which is evolve the lead with care, which is the create a responsive environment approach for mental health and wellness. And just providing a little bit of update around this work, and also just reiterating that we do this work alongside School Mental Health Ontario as their implementation partner, so guiding the work that we do in education. And with the release of PPM 169 earlier this year, also provided increased direction and mandated requirements in regards to this work. So just to preface it with that. Okay. So earlier this year, when we shared our mental health strategy and annual action plan, there were some questions from this group around who do we have working in our schools and who some of our partners are. So we wanted to be able to bring that back to you. So this is a list of everyone who is who are RCDSB staff who are working to provide mental health services in our schools right now. And so changes during this school year, as Jacqueline mentioned earlier, an increase to 3 itinerant school support counselors based on the needs in our system that we were experiencing. And as well, this year, we have been able to move to 4 social workers on a permanent basis as the funding has been secured, that we felt we were able to go ahead and make that change. So now with 3 social workers serving the 12 and over students and 1 serving students under the age of 12. And also, this is a collection of the community partners who currently provide service within our school buildings. So people that we have agreements with and agencies that we have agreements with who work within our buildings, aside from Nujimo, who is a virtual service, but still along the same lines, who support the mental health and well-being of students in our buildings. New this year to this list is the addiction treatment services. So we're piloting a partnership with them to be able to provide services in some of our schools using our mental health funding to look at the impact of that work. That would be the biggest change during the course of this year, as well as expansion of the partnership with PMFRC to expand the schools that are served by that agreement as well.
And maybe just one last thought to mention there is the majority of those services we do not pay for as an organization. They are funded by their own funding sources. The only exceptions to that being addiction treatment services and Nugent. Also, just wanted to share with you, this is an updated tiered framework which guides the work of our schools social workers as well as our school support counselors. So this has been a work in progress to provide this updated version of this work. It's taken some time, but we're really happy with the way that it has come out, and we believe that the feedback so far in the system has been really positive. So just wanted to share with you, and I do have some paper copies I can leave with you if you would like to be able to see it more closely and take that with you. But it continues to outline that foundational work of Tier 1, supporting all students, moving into early intervention by our school teams, and then moving on to late stage or Tier 2 interventions with our school-based social workers, and then referring to community partners outside in Tier 3 when that is what the service, when that service is required. Okay. And then we also just listed in this framework the strategies, tools, resources, programs that we're continuing to invest in as a system, the things that we're committed to, and that really was with the intent to provide clarity for everyone so that we're able to see these are the things that we're continuing to come back to and continue to support as a system and provide training around. And then the last piece I'll share with you, we did share some information from our most recent school climate survey data, which was in spring of 2023, was the time that it was completed. And these indicators were pulled just as most connected to mental health and well-being. So wanted to be able to share some of those data points with you. These are starting points for us when we have large scale information such as this. This gives us information to know this is where we need to start digging in. These are the questions we need to ask. And we do that work as a district, but also school teams, looking at their own results and then asking the questions of what do we need to learn more about in response to this data so that we can articulate some of our next steps. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Krista.
All right, thank you very much, Jenny. So I am doing focus goal number 5, achieve. So create a differentiated approach to student success and learning at the school and system level that reflects the key elements of the Inspired Learning Framework through authentic, engaging opportunities and tasks that explore the big ideas of the curriculum. So it's a focus on a K-12 model of the inspired learning, which we're all very familiar with, and lots of important things happen within this goal, and I will share a few with you. So creating a differentiated approach for students is vital. Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, is something that we worked on in last year. So it was part of all of our senior admin sessions, as well as a part of CAS and ACEs. Those are our elementary principals and vice principals and secondary principal and vice principal sessions, as well as work from our instructional coaches. It's a really important anchor for student learning, what a classroom looks like, what pedagogies or instructional practices teachers are using. And it was a really key tool that we use to support our educators. There are a number of documents, but 3 that I will highlight was the Reaching Every Learner framework. So that is a framework that when you have the slide, you can click on and see a beautiful tree with roots and, very leaves that are flourishing to represent our students. But the Reaching Every Learner framework was a collaboration across the district with some elementary and secondary educators and some central people to look at how we wanted to approach, learning and student experience in all of our classes. We did provide accompanying websites to support the de-streamed grade 9 classes last year, but it is a tool that educators or that administrators can walk throughout their building, can work with their staff. It's certainly a part of staff meetings to look at the best way that we can support students. To accompany that from the Rethink, we had the Student Success Handbook, and this has really been instrumental with supporting student success teams across the district, as well as our grade 7 and 8 guidance coach, who has done tremendous work in the system. But looking at the student success handbook, it provides really a monthly calendar of different things that educators should be looking at to support students. It talks a lot about the different opportunities, the importance of a variety of assessment measures as well. It's pretty abundant in terms of what's available, but that's just a few things. And then certainly the work with the transition guide that supports in particular student transitions from grades 7, 8, and 9. And then we accompanied it this year with a grade 8 transitions document. Next slide, please. So just as I mentioned, lots of opportunity for universal design for learning, and it was certainly something that was cross department as well. So we had approximately 20 different professional learning sessions last year, as mentioned at senior admin, CAS and ACEs, and then work with our school staff in various subject areas. It is probably the most foundational tool that our instructional coaches from elementary and secondary that are using in their work with different schools and in the system. And it also has supported the work of the culminating tasks or activities that are part of the secondary summative or culminating tasks or exams for final evaluations. Next slide. So the Reaching Every Learner framework, again, it's really an instrumental framework that is rooted in the inspired learning, but has the focus of well-being. So really thinking about what does school look like for students? What does the classroom look like? What do resources look like? What's the instruction look like? And how do students see themselves within the school walls? Also Indigenous ways of knowing, so partnering with Renault's team under Tina Nelson and doing a lot of work in that regard for the commitment to truth and reconciliation, as well as a lot of land-based learning and work with our community partners. And then certainly also with Renault, the anti-oppression, and work with assistant principal Amy Johnson to ensure that we are supporting all learners, but as importantly, that they see themselves within the learning resources that we're using in our classes. Next slide. So just two other documents that I mentioned. So these were two of the documents created from Rethink. There is an additional document, Experiential Learning. But again, these have been really important with the key thing of fostering student success and supporting transition. As Meredith mentioned, they are also all available on the hub, so they're useful documents for parents to look at as well, and have received a lot of feedback. In particular, for the transition guide, we use a resource called My Blueprint that students choose their secondary courses with. It's introduced to them in grade 7, but they can use it from grade 7 to 12, and have received a lot of feedback from parents because it's something that they can access as well to see their child's planning and different interests that they might have. So a lot of this work for last year was anchored in the Rethink initiative, and particularly introducing, the different subjects in which were de-streamed. We had really successful achievement in semester 1 last year, in semester 2, and the first semester of this year. So this isn't broken down in terms of level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, but it's more the overall achievement of the courses. So looking at a program that we use called Aspen, we can go and look at every single class in the system. And our focus was looking at the achievement of the de-streamed grade 9, because it was basically students coming in and all of them having the same opportunity. And the success rate was, well, I think it's extremely high. So it's been success, and the documents that we've created really from K-12 model with the three of us here have really supported this achievement as well. And I will now introduce Superintendent Cousineau.
Who will stand this time? I forgot to stand the last time. To talk about technology, I think we all know that technology is now ever present in our classroom, and it's become indispensable for our students to learn how to use technology, however we define it. And I'm reminded of one of the keynote speakers at the technology conference that we attended last year, who said, the technology that students are using today, just keep in mind that it will be the very best they have today is the very worst they will ever experience in their lifetime. So again, it puts it in perspective. But our goal is more than the tool themselves. It's to leverage innovative technologies to accelerate and deepen learning in person and online, expanding availability in schools and central departments striving for a 1-to-1 ratio of devices and learners and to learners and employees. So we know that we've certainly put a lot of emphasis on the 1-to-1 Chromebook deployment for our students in 7 to 12. And we have the breakdown here. And I think we can take a lot of pride that this was a very expensive endeavor, but we are seeing already huge dividends. We've achieved the 1-to-1 from 7 to 12. In doing so, we've also have a 1-to-3 ratio from kindergarten to grade 6. So that is important to remind ourselves of. We purchased an additional 3,500 devices, and with the one-time funding from our reserves that trustees had approved and our own operational budgets, it's a $1.75 million investment in our students. So not cheap, but we're seeing increased access to technology. Next slide, please. This is just an update because I know last year when we were rolling this out and we're talking about the cover protective Chromebooks, there were questions about the ongoing cost to maintenance and repairs. So we know that we are going to continue to track call tickets to our IT department. But this is an early snapshot, and over time we will work at disaggregating our call tickets as well. Not surprisingly, we saw a bit of a spike in the total number of call tickets early in the year. But a number of those were what we call low-level call tickets. It was just, how do I get connected? How do we access? This one doesn't seem to start up. So a large number of them were low level, but then you see them tapering off. So what you see on the slide is a comparison, previous and current year. But I think more importantly, next slide, please, which provides context, is while the total number of call tickets increased, the call tickets increased by 38%, but the actual number of devices increased by 70%. So we are not seeing an increase overall. We could say we're not seeing an increase as a result of rolling out more technology. Now, yes, I think we can acknowledge they're all brand new right now, or a large number of them are brand new, but still they are durable tools that we've put out. And if you saw some of the press that we had in CTV, for example, students were raving about the fact that this is mine now, and I can do the work having my own Chromebook. Next slide, please. But perhaps more importantly, we need to remind ourselves that it's not the tool for the tool itself, and it's not to simply substitute what we were doing on paper, we're now doing on the Chromebook. It's allowing us to redefine how we engage with learning and making students not only consumers, but having them contribute to the body of knowledge. And technology facilitates that. It facilitates the ability to collaborate. And it's not only from grades 7 to 12. And we're going to see an example here in a minute of an elementary classroom that participated in the Entrepreneur for Change program. And what we're going to see are examples of students being content creators. We're going to see them using all sorts of technology, including WeVideo with that was used with green screen videos, Pixton for comic books, Canvas, Google Suites, Circuit for design, ChatGPT. Like, So many technologies. So we're gonna see a classroom where it's completely embedded.
Come on in. 3, 2, 1.
In our classroom, we use integrated technology to inspire learning. Technology empowers students to select the appropriate digital tools to collaborate, communicate, create, innovate, and solve problems. Through the use of technology, students gain these transferable skills that will prepare them for the evolution of technological advancements. Their ability to collaborate both online through technology and in person prepares them to be the creators and achievers of tomorrow.
So we are truly helping redefine the learning experience and how students interact with their own learning. So on that note, I will turn over to Jennifer Burns.
No, I was not going to stand up, but now so here I am. So stewardship of resources, focus goal number 7 is the digitization of records management system for schools and central departments in order to ensure all records are categorized and stored electronically, including historical records. This has been, on the horizon for a long time. And so we got a working group together, which was really the executive council and senior managers. And what we did was we reviewed sort of the goals and what the organization was hoping to accomplish in, as a district and the products available to help serve those goals. ThinkDocs was the vendor selected, and the tool we're going to be using is called Leisure Feast. We haven't actually seen it yet, but it sounds wonderful, so I hope it lives up to our expectations. Currently, ThinkDocs is supporting the district to create a baseline, a starting point for our next steps, and that does include a classification scheme of what's in the province for education, and then kind of just working with how we actually use it. So hopefully it will be very user friendly. And that will help us to get to where we want to get to next. And then Jenny, I think you're wrapping us up.
Okay. To me. Okay, so I'm going to speak to measurement of progress. And the goal that we have, the goal number 8, is the implementation of key priority areas of the Better Schools and Outcomes Act, which is otherwise known as Bill 98, and the development of our strategy to support school improvement planning. Okay, so the Better Schools and Outcome Act received royal assent last year, and there were, as we talked about earlier this year, a number of legislative requirements that came along with that act. But today we're really going to focus on those that involve monitoring in particular, as well as public transparency. Okay. All right. So one of the biggest changes that came with this act was the introduction of what's being called a Student Achievement Plan. We sometimes call it SAP. We're not sure if we like that yet, but we're experimenting with it, but that will replace the board improvement plans of the past. So it's a new way of going about that work. And they have articulated the 3 key objectives of the Student Achievement Plan, which you can see there, thinking about common sets of priorities to guide districts, data-driven action planning, as well as transparency. It's transparency to all stakeholders. With that, we have also had the mandate that these 3 priority areas need to be included in our multi-year plans. Okay, and the links are there to these documents, but also brought some paper copies for you if you'd like to be able to have them at your fingertips to have a look at. And we don't have time to go through them fulsomely today. We'll do that at another time. But these 3 areas have been identified. So we have achievement of learning outcomes and core academic skills, preparation of students for future success, and student engagement and well-being. And then in each of those areas, there are indicators that have been identified that we need to respond to in terms of data. Okay, so each one has its own set of indicators that we'll be looking at. So in the second, actually, can we just go back? Oh, you'll have it. It's right there on the screen. You can see it up there. Perfect. And also in the second link, there is the template that, along with the Student Achievement Plan, there are requirements for public sharing of the information. So by April 2nd of each school year, we are to publicly post a public template, a reporting template. So the second link is the beginning of that template that's been provided to us, which we are currently working through, getting ready to be able to share it with the public. Connor, can you just go back to the slides? Thanks. So this was an image that was shared in a recent session from the ministry, just really clarifying what the student achievement plan process is to be. And it is intended to be a multi-year, so it's spanning a 3-year cycle, which every year of that cycle, we spend time reflecting on our data. And then one of the biggest changes here is the requirement for us to go outside of our own organization to consult with local communities, to help us think about our data and what it means, but also to give us feedback on the actions that we're taking in response to the data. So we're required to do that, and also to report to the ministry on how we're going about those consultations. Okay. So this really, sorry, I'm just not quite there, but almost. And along with that, it's just to put into a bit of context, this requirement was put in place for this school year, beginning this school year. So public reporting by April 2nd, reporting to the ministry by June the 30th. But we have just begun in the past little while to get this information from the ministry. So just at the end of January, we received their template, and we're having webinars to help us learn how to go about the work right up until March 20th. So that's presenting us a nice tight timeline. So we're working within all of that to do our very best to make sure that we're compliant with that requirement, but knowing that we're going to keep refining our work as we go on from year to year. Okay. And then another aspect of the Act was the requirement for us to be able to share more publicly what we're doing in our schools on our professional activity days. So schools are sharing this information in different ways. They're sharing in newsletters, they're posting on social media, they're sending out emails, but we do have the requirement to post on websites as well. So this is just an example from Madawaska Valley District School. From their last PA day of what they had shared. And I know it's too tiny to see, but linked in the banners, and Connor's been helping us with this work. Linked in the banner is a link to so anybody can go and see what the PA day topic was. So you should be able to see that for any school 14 days in advance of each PA day. And then the last piece I'll speak about is that this year we've undertaken the challenge of really thinking about and refreshing how we go about the work of school improvement planning in our district. We know that we know more than we did in the past about how we need to go about this work in a very inclusive manner. And we are taking this time post-COVID to be able to think about a bit of a refresh, and now also how it aligns with the ministry requirement around a student achievement plan. So we launched this inquiry with our principals and vice principals, and then they in turn with their staffs around this question. So this is the question that we've been thinking about and learning about over the course of this year, and continue to dig into. We're back at it again tomorrow, thinking about how do we engage in a process of school improvement planning that moves us towards more meaningful and equitable outcomes for every learner. So we're hoping to continue this work so that we have some things really clearly laid out for our schools to begin leading that work in a different way in September. And then the last piece to leave you with is a little video from Jessica Poff. Jessica is principal at Palmer Rapids Public School, and she's also a member of the steering committee that's been helping to lead this work along with us in the system. So she'll tell you a little bit about what that work looks like for her.
Hi, I'm Jessica Poff. I'm the principal at Palmer Rapids Public School, and I'm really pleased to be able to share with you some of my thinking about the work that we're doing with the inquiry on school improvement planning this year. So the work with the SIP steering committee is allowing us to make authentic connections between what we see as priorities in our schools and the work of school improvement planning. Through this inquiry, we're making a shift in the process by meaningfully engaging in a collaborative process of school improvement renewal. Throughout this inquiry, we are deeply engaged in supporting meaningful and equitable change and outcomes for all learners. This work builds capacity for instructional leadership and embeds learning in the process, for example, in our collective learning about data. And by engaging in holistic collaborative approach to renewal, we're reestablishing the formal process of school improvement planning. This provides both opportunity and challenge as it invites us, senior exec, administrators, school educators, and everyone who works in the RCDSB to build the plane as we're flying it, which can be daunting as we let go of the reins a little bit and trust that we will get there together. By focusing on connecting what's going on up there, student achievement plan, provincial mandates and directions, with what's going on down here at the board level through our multi-year strategic plan and school improvement planning. As we engage in building capacity, everyone can have the opportunity to be invested in the priorities of our district and to help each of our students inspire, empower, and achieve.
So just a little tidbit into that. So tomorrow we're starting our senior admin session on this topic, and I'm going to tell them we've got some pieces of the plane now. Now we're going to start to put them together so that we're getting something ready to fly.
Okay, thank you. So just to summarize, I know this was a longer presentation than usual, but it is a mid-year update on the strategic plan, and that is our guiding document in our CDSV that the Board of Trustees establishes, and it's you setting direction for us. And so we wanted to give you a very thorough update about our updates around those 8 focus goals. So now you know why we didn't do all 23. we picked 8. And so for the remainder of this year, we're going to stick with those 8 focus goals and bring you another update in September about the actions that we've taken from February until June and what the impact of those actions have been in relation to those 8 focus goals. And then as we look ahead to the 2024-2025 school year, we are going to pick another slate of 8 focus goals for next year. And I'm going to be working with you to solicit your feedback around which goals do you think we should be focusing on next year, because that will inform our work as a team in setting direction for the district. So thank you for spending this time with us, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have as well.
Okay, great presentation. Excellent, really nicely done.
Thank you to Connor for the beautiful.
Also lovely slide set. I commented on that earlier to Kristen. It was beautifully done, and all the embedded pieces was wonderful to be able to access. So thank you for that. Questions around the table? Leo.
Yeah, a wonderful presentation. Just 2 things come to mind. So one was about the computer system. Do we have like a backup for the computer system and all our systems? Like in the cloud for offsite, sort of something would happen to like our server here that would have.
Yeah, but you're looking at me, IT based, or are we talking about the management system?
No, you're not talking about your data management system. You're talking about the
IT. Just
cybersecurity question.
Yeah.
Suspect.
Yeah. All our systems have backups, and more and more moving to cloud, but we do have tape backups as well. But what Jen was speaking to is a specific software for essentially content management for our document management, which again will be a cloud base.
Moving from our paper filing cabinets to an electronic filing cabinet that's up on the cloud, right? Which is, it's always up there. Yeah, and backed up for sure, Leo. And so part of that works against the risk of fire theft or even a flood, right? And so when we're moving to electronic ones, and then we have to safeguard electronically, and the move has been to the cloud from servers, just because as the industry evolves, it's safer. So yes.
The other question I had was with you had talked about the school support counselors and school board social workers, and then just all those different tiers that were helping the students. So my question would be, so what about after hours? Like in the evenings or on weekends or on holidays, do they have access to those same counselors and support?
Not as school board employees, but we do, well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, some of the people that we do have partnerships with who work within our buildings also are referrals. We also refer to them for support outside of the school day too. But there are other supports, Leo, that we do have access to. And also that's one of our things in being able to think about how we are communicating that. So that's where if we're looking outside of school, we're making referrals to the appropriate place. Working with one call, one click to find out who those connections are. Sometimes it's with the Phoenix Center, sometimes it's, and depending on the situation, referrals to CHIO, sometimes it's mobile crisis unit. It depends on what it is, but that's where that tier 3 in terms of when we think about referrals to outside agencies, it's trying that wraparound work with the community agencies to think about the whole picture of the student. So we know we have the during the school day.
Yeah.
Piece, and then what are the other connections that we have to put in place with our partners to support outside the school day? But we don't have our same employees working outside the school day.
It's just good for the students to know, right? So and obviously, when they're in school, they can go to somebody, but it's just that after hours stuff that
Yeah.
aware of what they can do.
And the social workers they know who all those connections are and know their students. So when they're involved in providing those interventions, as well as the school support counselors, and making sure that people know, that students know, families know who those outside supports are and the emergency contacts should they need them, especially if it's part of a plan in regards to suicide protocol or something like that. They're very specific in making sure there's a plan for who they're going to access and when.
Thanks.
Other questions?
Just a brief comment. Early on in the presentation, S.O. Poirier mentioned that in the page collaborative professionalism, I was really pleased to see a new structure for workplace violence committee. She put in brackets, involves all union presidents. I just think that's a real proactive move. So thank you, because I've sort of, my ear close to the ground, I've heard that, there are some things that two-way communication needs to be happening. So thank you.
Yes, of course you can.
Excellent presentation, and I am like a child in the candy store. Well, I like everything. So good. So interesting. I'm happy that I applied for trustee position. It's exciting.
Nice to get an overview, right?
Yeah.
It's a way to get a bit of an overview of the priority pieces for sure.
And record management, as Jennifer was mentioning, and I have done it for the library, so I know what you are talking. And then well-being and the connecting with the communities, so all those things, everything is very fascinating to me. And I am very, very excited, and always my support is there outside the trustee. Also, if you need any connection or if you want to connect with something, even technologically or for the record management, as a trustee, we are not supposed to interfere the operation, because I'm a CEO of the library. I know that part. And, so apart from that, as a outside resource, you can connect with me if you need any of the contacts or references. Thank you very much. Wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed. Thank you.
Any other questions? I've got a couple, but I'll wait to see if anybody else. I have a few. One was looking at the hub. Is there a button on the main page to get to the hub? Because I don't know how to get there.
So it's not when you say main page, I assume you're meaning the website.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's not a public site.
It's not.
So it's not on the website, but I'll tell you an easy hack, which is, first of all, we keep when we send it out, we remind people to bookmark it.
Yes.
So that you can find it. But also, if you go into those 9 dots where you're in Google, and you look at, it shows you, calendar, Gmail, whatnot.
Yep.
In there, it says slides. Sites, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. So sites, it's a bottom is the blue one.
Okay.
If you click on that, all the sites that you have access to will pop up, and that's an easy way to find it as well.
Okay.
But that's good feedback in terms of, and we're trying to build the capacity amongst people using it. And so we've tried things like showing a picture and circling things and the arrows. So I appreciate the feedback.
Well, and I knew it wasn't public, but I wasn't quite sure how to get it if I didn't have a link sent to me. So
Yeah.
that'll be it.
The other thing we should be doing is putting it on the staff portal.
Well, I wondered about the
Yeah.
portal as well.
So that's the next.
Okay, that's one question. I wondered about the professionalism, the collaborative professionalism. I was saying collegial. I knew that wasn't quite right. There was a staff survey done a number of years ago as well. So has that been kind of looked at
For the
again?
well-being piece.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
it has not, and so that's why it's like, that's something I think we need to get back to.
So I wasn't sure whether you had kind of looked at that. I know it was several years ago now, and you probably need to do another one. I guess that's
Exactly.
my second
That's what I
question.
think too. Yeah.
Because that would be helpful recognizing the, the years we've gone through has been.
Yes, for sure.
So
For sure.
might be something to look at as well. So that's helpful. I had a couple questions around data. Now, the school climate data that was shown looked a little concerning, really. It wasn't as positive as I thought it might be. And I know you talked about digging into getting that information as well, but is there anything else that would be helpful there? I don't know. Like, I know data is always challenging, right? You can always display it in different ways. And so I'm not sure even what my question is, but I guess I was concerned that it was not maybe as positive as I thought it might be. But anyway.
And sometimes we're surprised when we look at data too, because we feel like perhaps it doesn't match what the experiences that we hear about in our buildings. But I think we need to look at it at what it is. We take the data as to what it's telling us. And again, it's a starting point. I also think we need to remember that when students answer the questions on these surveys, they're not specifically being asked, do you have a positive relationship at school, or do you feel unsafe? They're responding to a collection of questions, and then that corresponds to an indicator based on that collection.
Right.
So that's why I think it's really important, again, that we look at it as this is a starting point, and we need to say, what is this really telling us, and what is it not telling us, and how do we find out more information? And so, but yes, we also want to be able to see some of those results in our school climate survey be higher than they are. We believe that we're investing in the work to be able to do that, and keeping it at the forefront of people, right? We had a conversation this morning with our system team around how the work that we do from all different departments can all lead to some of these same data points, right? Like sometimes we may not think about the work that we're doing in literacy or numeracy might really impact a student's sense of belonging, as an example. And so we're really trying to think about how are we working towards some of these really important key indicators for us from all the different avenues.
But whole data collection is a challenge, though, too, is and the interpretation of it. I mean, you can collect it, but it's interpreting it then and then.
From the mental health perspective, we are forming advisory groups, student advisory groups, and educator advisory groups, as well as consulting with parents. So that's part of the work, is determining how we're going to dig into this a little bit more with those groups, so that we're hearing from people around their experience to help us identify next steps.
Okay, that's helpful. The other piece around data I wondered about was I did go into the transition document that I know Kristen talked about, the My Blueprint piece. So I'm assuming at some point, can we gather data from that?
Yeah, we have data. Yeah.
Because that might be an interesting.
A lot of data.
A lot of stuff there, I think, that could. Yeah. With the right kind of interpretation or looking at it could again provide additional guidance to us.
And it was shared at the previous board meeting. You were away, but I can forward more information to you.
Okay, that's great. I appreciate that. Yeah, I thought just to comment, the videos I thought were really super. They were excellent examples of what's happening in our board. I thought Jenny's comment about a nice tight timeline was really quite amazing. I couldn't resist that one, but I thought it was a great presentation. Thank you so much for the update on that, and really good solid work happening and moving forward on so many ways. One of the pieces I guess I do wonder about is how do we reach out to the community to get feedback on the priority piece, but we have to do it for budget, I believe, as well. I think that's a new requirement. So we'll need to think about how to best do that and actually gain good information from the community. So, and maybe our new trustee can even help us with some suggestions on how to do that. So, anyway, thank you very much. If there are any other questions, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Thank you so much for that. Okay, staff reports to the board. No, committee reports to the board. We are moving on. I would like to have the Program and Student Achievement Committee open session report of February 13th, and I believe Trustee Gannett might have that for us.
Thank you, Chair Humphries. Yes, the Program and Student Achievement Committee met on February 13th. So there's two items to discuss. The first one is this really lengthy report on the Annual action plan for school effectiveness and student success in elementary. A lot of people who I know well, very experienced, were leads in this, both S.O. Smith and S.O. Rydell, along with our secondary Shelley Gagne, systems principal, just to name a few. Just some of the highlights that really stood out to me. I won't go through the report, but just generally speaking, the report is meant to increase the knowledge and confidence of educators in implementing new learning of effective and research-based literacy and numeracy, pedagogical practices into classroom instruction and assessment as determined by participation rates of professional learning sessions, student achievement data, educator feedback, and anecdotal observations. And just briefly, two other things to mention. Also, to increase the percentage of students who report finding classroom instruction relevant to their everyday lives as determined in the 21-22 Our School survey, from 65 to 75% in elementary. One of the things that I really like to see in this report on the second page is it had a section that had responsibility, who's responsible for what, timelines, resources required, and most of all, the monitoring of it. When this report was stated as overview in this committee, that really impressed me. So that being said, there were no recommendations in this report.
Would you like to move the adoption of the, or see to the report, rather?
Yes, but I have one other. I'll move the receipt of this report. All those in favor, or I need a seconder?
Seconder,
Need a seconder.
Seconder, trustee Doherty, thank you. And all those in favor of receiving this report? And that's carried. Thank you very much, trustee Gannett.
And I believe Mr. Kuzin also mentioned an updated review of adult and continuing education, which he said very eloquently earlier on in our meeting. And we seem to be in good hands of these consultants who we've hired. So, and there were no recommendations in that report also.
Okay, so we've received the report already. Thank you very much. And can we go on now to the committee of the closed session reports, trustee Boland, please.
Sure, thank you. So committee as a whole open session report. We met on February 27th, 2024 and discussed the following items in open session. French as a second language, FSL updates regarding programming, and number 2, our CDSB audit, our adult and continuing education cyclical review. I move that the board adopts this report.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder for the adoption of this report? Trustee Rajamani, right? And so do I have any questions or comments? All right, and all those in favor of adopting this report? That's carried. Thank you very much. And the closed session report, trustee Boland.
Thank you. The committee as a whole, Renfrew County District School Board met on February 27th, 2024 and discussed the following items in closed session. Number 1, Finance and Resource Committee meeting, closed session report, February 13th, no recommendations. Number 2, a decision in respect of negotiations with employees of the board. We have 2 motions. The following motion was adopted that the Renfrew County District School Board of Trustees ratify the memorandum of settlement regarding the 2022-2026 collective agreement between the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation, OSSTF, and the Renfrew County Secondary and Vocational Teachers Local and the Renfrew County District School Board. The other motion is as follows, that the Renfrew County District School Board of Trustees ratify the memorandum of settlement regarding the 2022-2026 collective agreement between the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation, OSSTF, Renfrew County Early Childhood Educators Local, and the Renfrew County District School Board. And number 3, an update on the acquisition of or disposal of a school site. Staff was asked to follow up. I move the board adopts this report, please.
Okay, do I have a seconder for the adoption of this report? Trustee Gannett, thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting this report? Thank you very much. And I think we also have a report on the Special Education Advisory Committee meeting Is that correct, Trustee Gannett?
Thanks, Chair Humphries. Yes, on January 17th, the SEAC committee met, and the staff updates mostly included revising the SEAC handbook, Special Education Advisory Handbook. We've done a couple of virtual meetings, one in person, and it's at its final stages to be put forward to the, I don't know if you call it a committee, but help me out here, SOs. What's the term?
Education Advisory Committee?
Yeah, but no, when we're finished with the handbook, it's to go to, what's the term? The draft, like to, where it's given a final look.
Oh.
What's the term? It's left me.
Well, we're going to review it for AODA compliancy to make sure
That's what.
you're ready to put publicly on. Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the main thing that we discussed at our last meeting. Report from the board, just a couple of things. I did mention, as someone earlier said, that there was an EA PA day, that the information I got back at that meeting was very, very successful. A lot of good communication happening. There was brief discussion about our Section 23 program. Also, I mentioned in that committee meeting that we'll probably be hearing more of that, but I understand for the city of Pembroke, they could be piloting a transportation sort of experimental transportation hub where they're going to have a 3-year pilot for people, not just students, but people who need transportation in the area. And the figures that they threw out is for 3 years is supposed to cost them just shy of $1 million. So I know that at all ages, but particularly our students, we've heard that there's always issues with transportation. Couple of the association reports is particularly the PMFRC continues to really struggle with finding childcare continues to be a real issue. There was another association that talked about, Sarah talked about the Easter Seals report. And I was pleased that we had, she's not here now, she left earlier, but Jody Primo was there virtually for that particular meeting. I thanked her for taking the time to attend. And that's pretty well it. Just, there was no recommendations made. And I move that we adopt this report.
Okay, so we move the receipt of this report. Do I have a seconder? Trustee Reddy, I'm sure would love to second this.
I would love that.
Any questions or comments on the SEAC report? Seeing none, all of us in favor of receiving this report? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And we did have an addition, as you recall, when we amended the agenda. We have Trustee Boland is going to give us a bit of a verbal update on the work of the Renfrew County Joint Transportation Consortium.
Yeah, I just shortened it to the bus consortium. So much easier.
I know.
Thank you. So we met on February 5th. And just to summarize, so the government has said we're sending out new guidelines for busing, right? We thought with that when they were doing this originally that they would help us out and we would get some more money, but that's not what governments do. They want to save themselves money. So as a result, they changed the walking distances for the students. And so currently we have JKSK, they walk a half a kilometer. So they're going to be walking up to 0.8 of a kilometer now. The lucky people in grades 1 to 6, there is no change. They're at 1.6 kilometers, so the status quo. The poor kids in high school, they have to walk a little bit further. So currently it's 1.6 kilometers, and it's going to be up to 3.2 kilometers. So that's been put out, and we've revised and looked at stuff. And so we're hoping to have a game plan of implementing the new changes in the 2025-26 school year. So not the coming one, but the further one to implement those new guidelines. And just for comparison, so what would happen is that we would have 341 fewer students on the bus. So they'll be walking in the cities, right? So all the communities, you'll see more students walking or getting rides with their parents, I would assume. Total routes, so there'll be 2 fewer buses overall. Total runs, there'll be 32 fewer runs. Total kilometers, 816 fewer kilometers. And together, we think we'll save roughly $218,000. Right. So, I mean, as it is, like our budget currently is what, 400,000 for mainly with busing, so they'll cut it in half. Right, so, but I think, you know, part of the strategy is to do an action plan and then set a do communication strategy, just, you know, to let parents and students know well in advance that you know, these are the changes that are coming. Get ready. We may want to do just a fitness program in the summer before, right? We do that just to get the kids going. So that's just a little update on the bus consortium and the changes coming for busing.
Thank you. Thank you, Leo. Any questions or comments?
Just a comment, I was at that meeting and Leo put it very eloquently, hit all the highlights. And I just think that the campaign moving forward between now and when this actually happens is critical. And I appreciated your comment about exercise, Leo. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that update. And Director Nemi, do you have an update for us as well?
I do, thank you. I wanted to share that the month of February has been very exciting in our CDSB. I will highlight one event that happened this past weekend. So Renfrew County District School Board for the first time participated in Coldest Night of the Year in Pembroke, and which is it's a national event and probably actually North American event. And Pembroke, I think, has been hosting this event for a while. This year, the local charity that benefited from the event was The Grind. And as a team, we invited all staff to join, and we had a really nice cross-section of staff participate, including Trustee Boland. As of this afternoon, we have raised $2,955 for The Grind. All of the participants as a whole have exceeded the goal of $100,000 for The Grind. And so we are very proud to have participated in the event, and we hope that this will become an annual tradition in our CDSB. In terms of what I've been doing as the new director of our CDSB, I have continued to visit many schools, engage in one-on-one entry conversations with formal school and district leaders. I have attended a SEAC meeting, a student senate meeting, and I'm attending PIC tomorrow night. And again, my overall goal is to learn about the unique strengths and the growth opportunities that exist in our CDSB. And I will just share a couple of highlights, and then you know, the time is a little bit. So some of the highlights and I'm looking for themes through all of the learning that I'm doing. Some of the themes are that our size is our strength, and we are a relatively small board, and that gives us strength. Many of the staff are sharing with me that they feel very networked among themselves within a school, across schools, and they feel networked with central staff. Principals tell me that they have many phone friends. They know if I need feedback about timetabling, I know who to call. If I need feedback about a safe schools situation, I know who to call. And that's because they are very well connected because of our size. Also, because our schools and communities are small, our staff really know and care deeply about our students and our families. And as a result, really go above and beyond in terms of the type of support that they provide to our students. Other themes is one theme that has surfaced many, many times is that Renfrew County District School Board values the communities that we are a part of, and vice versa, that our communities are extremely supportive of our schools through a variety of ways. For example, co-op placements, all of the wraparound supports that the external agencies provide, support for many different extracurriculars, athletics, the arts, and other opportunities as well. So those are some of the strengths. There are many more, and I look forward to sharing them broadly across the district. Some of the growth opportunities that have been highlighted. One was feedback around French as a second language programming. And so we've listened. Executive Council has been working with me for the last 6 to 8 weeks on reviewing the programming that we did have in place for elementary. And we brought to an update today with the successes and then our next steps. Another challenge that is province-wide is our daily staffing challenges. And that's well known that that's an issue across Ontario, but we are not losing hope. We're going to be resilient because we still think that we have learning to do from other districts. Different districts have tried different strategies. We also think we can expand some partnerships with post-secondary institutions and work on implement a variety of strategies to increase the recruitment and retention. So the staff have done a lot of work up to this point and are working very hard. And we're going to keep trying different strategies to solve some of our challenges related to daily staffing challenges. And the other piece of feedback that I think will be good feedback for the Board of Trustees as you enter next year, where we will be engaging in consultations around the development of the new strategic plan, is some of the feedback has been to expand innovative and alternative learning opportunities for secondary students and to promote our CBSB. Because as you can see from today, we have many wonderful things happening across the district. And we want to, with the support of our communications department, promote all the great things that are happening in our schools. So those are some of the highlights that have surfaced so far in the last 2 weeks.
Any questions or comments? We'll have to just drop the new director pretty soon, right?
Yeah, that's
true. Yeah, she's been here a couple months. I'm no longer new. That's all right.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Yeah. I did not do a chairs update. I could have done a slide deck for you, what I've been doing for the last 3 weeks, but I decided I wouldn't do that. So I opted not to. So we will move on to the student trustees update. I believe we have student trustees Biggs and Ding on board, hopefully. So could you do your update for us?
So earlier this month, Ava and I spent a weekend in Ottawa at OSTA-ACO, which is Ontario Student Trustees Association, and we spent the weekend at their Education Action Conference. At the conference, I spoke with past student trustees and engaged in professional development workshops, such as one about networking. I also had the opportunity to learn about student-led initiatives in other boards and came back with new insights around artificial intelligence, equity, amplifying student voices, and eco-action. Finally, I led breakout session groups in my role as the Eastern Regional Representative of Public School Boards. In those groups, I held a conversation about equity, including menstrual equity, and another conversation about standardized testing.
Okay, thanks, Grace. And just adding on to that, at OSTA-ACO's Education Action Conference, I had the opportunity to run 2 breakout sessions for the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advocacy Interest Group. In the first session, we focused on board-specific issues and problem solving. Well, in the second session, I was able to bring in a speaker from the Carleton University Sexual Assault Support Center to speak to us about the promotion of consent culture. Grace and I also held a very productive Student Senate meeting where we were joined by our new director, Ann Lisa. At this meeting, we focused on May Mental Health Week activities, Black History Month, and more. We were also able to put up an Equity Council update on our social medias from the February 12th meeting.
That's great. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments for either Ava or Grace? Sounds like you had a very busy weekend, the two of you, but hopefully very productive. So thank you for your update on that. Just on an OPSPA update, I see on the agenda, I actually missed it there, but I did want to just comment that we do, Kim Doherty and I will be involved in the Board of Directors, the OPSPA Board of Directors meeting on Friday and Saturday of this week. And you may have seen information about the Human Labor Relations and Human Resources seminar coming out the end of April. And if it's something that as a trustee you wish to attend, just let me know. And I'm sure we do have funds there to support you going to that. It's in Toronto. Kim and I likely go, I know I'm gonna go for sure, because it also ties into the next, OPSPA board meeting, so I don't know whether Kim will go or not, but just to let you know about that. Human resources and labor relations is always an interesting, I won't call it a conference. It's an educational experience that I know that Jacqueline and many of her staff will be attending as well. So that should be good. Okay, on to correspondence. Just as you may recall, maybe a month or so ago, we did talk about putting together a minister's letter to highlight or to remind the ministry that small rural boards do have some other concerns, particularly with Bill 98. And so there was a draft in your package. I know we had already agreed, I believe, to send that, but I just want to make sure if you have any concerns about that draft to let me know. If not, we will go ahead and send that into the ministry. It was really based on a couple of other boards who sent something similar, but we just wanted to make sure that the rural boards are heard, because sometimes our voices may not be as heard as loudly as some others. So just to recognize the respect around that. You understand that concept, I'm sure. Okay, just to remind you that tomorrow is Pink Shirt Day. So if you're going anywhere or doing anything on Pink Shirt Day, you might want to keep that in mind. It is obviously a way to highlight the need for ever awareness of bullying in across society, not just in our schools, but everywhere. So something to keep in mind. Is there any other business that I have missed, or any other comments that we wanted to bring forward? If not, I think that's been an excellent meeting. Thank you all for being here. Again, a special welcome to our new trustees. So glad to have her on board. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week at our communities meeting on the 5th of March, which is just around the corner. So with that, I make the motion to adjourn. Do I have a seconder to adjourn this meeting? Certainly. We have our new trustee adjourning the meeting. She catches on very fast. All those in favor of adjournment, and that is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.